right. Welcome everybody to another BDA Boxing Podcast, broadcasting to you live from the true north, Canada. Beautiful day outside, it's snowing, not a lot of sun, but it's got that nice winter texture. We are in winter, by the way. We're past the 21st of December, and home stretch, everybody. Home stretch 2017. It is about to come to an end, and this is Mr. BDA with you. And joining us as always, my co-host King Bucho. King, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Perfect, sensational. Listen, perhaps not a lot to talk about right now, but we sure do have a lot of interesting topics for a time when there aren't a lot of fights, you know. So we're gonna get started, and if you guys want to join us, you can do so by instant messaging us at boxingdebate@hotmail.com. I put the link of a video that King Bucho did, an instructional video on how to join us on Google Hangouts. So if you don't know how to do it, it's a 1-minute video, very short, and it's very simple to join us. It has all the instructions that you need. In fact, it's so simple that I'm gonna show it right now, a little part, just a little part, you know, not anything too exaggerated. Hold on a second. So yeah, I'm gonna show you the video here. It should be appearing soon, if this computer doesn't fuck with me anymore. Speaking of computers, we have Gaia 500 on the line, back from the lab. It should have been repaired. Gaia, are you there?
Hello BDA, hello Bucho, how are you?
The hell? Why did Bucho, why did Gaia's accent change?
I don't know, what the fuck?
Shut up.
Alright, whatever. Listen, we're gonna be going back to Gaia 500 every once in a while. Now I'm having a little bit of a problem here putting the video. Oh, there we go. So I'm gonna play just real quick the video. It's got no audio, but you can see Google Hangouts on a computer, right? So there you go. You don't send us an email message. You actually, if you have a Gmail account, all you gotta do is go to Google Hangouts. You add new conversation. There we go. See, BDA Boxing. That's the email address. That's, you can see right there, which is boxingdebate@hotmail.com. You can see it in the lower portion of our live stream right now with the green letters. There it is. So yeah, there you go. See, send us an instant message. Then you say, hey, I want to be on the panel. We say, you know, you send us your email, and that way we can send you a link through this Google Hangouts thing. All you gotta do is answer, bada bing, bada boom, you're in. Simple as that. Right, Bucho? It's simple, right?
Quite simple.
Quite simple, precise, concise. And let me tell you something. You're going to want to join us because there's no rules here. There are no rules. You can say whatever you want as long...
We're establishing some...
Yeah, establishing some ground rules. As long as you don't disrupt the show too much, everything should go fantastic. Now, before we begin, let's give a shout out to everybody in the chat room. We got Cameron Gillon, Victor Atkinson, you know, the usual suspects. We got Fight Facts UK, Juan Pacheco. We have... wait a minute, hold on a second. What is this? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, let me keep going here with the people that are joining us in the chat room, or loyal followers, and the people that should be getting in on the chat. By the way, Luis Catorce, Dominique Pereira Palacios. How you guys doing out there? Thank you for joining us. And don't forget, guys, you know, you want to join us live. I just showed you an instructional video, and it's in the link is in the description as well. So there we go. All right, Bucho, you did a live stream. What was it, Thursday? Bucho, yeah, and Thursday.
Yeah, well, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I did one.
Thursday, things got very heated. First of all, you went for 4.5 hours, or almost 4.5 hours. I think that's the longest, or one of the longest podcasts in BDA history. I think the longest one was the one that we did with either the one that we did for Randall Bailey, or the one that we did on the day of the super flyweight card from HBO. I think that one was 4 hours and 50 minutes. So, I mean, how did you do it, man?
I don't know. I really didn't plan on doing a podcast, but everybody kept telling me, oh, I want to, like, are you going to do a podcast? Can you do a podcast? And so I was like, since you couldn't do it, I was like, well, okay, I'm going to do it.
Well, first of
all, then it dragged on, you know, the whole thing.
I found it quite entertaining.
It's like, all right, so we were there for like, 4 hours. It was crazy, man.
And I found it quite entertaining. Of course, like you said, we're going to establish some ground rules as we go on, and we have a lot to talk about. So you can start inviting people when I'm. Just let me say something before we begin here.
Okay.
I want to talk about, because I didn't get to give my comments regarding Billy Joe Saunders' win over David Lemieux, and I want to read here the quote that I have from David Lemieux. First of all, David Lemieux decided not to give Billy Joe Saunders any credit after the loss. And it was the same thing after the Golovkin fight. He said, it wasn't my night. And if I get a rematch, things are going to be different. After the Billy Joe Saunders fight, in which he ate a lot of jabs and landed nothing, at least in the Golovkin fight, he landed a couple of shots. Here, he couldn't land anything. So let me just read a statement that he made after the fight, not in the post-fight, but a couple of days later. He says, "We already knew he was a good fighter, but what surprised us is how much he runs. He does not allow himself to fight. He starts running. It's very annoying style. Canelo already fought with a similar style with Zane Lara, and he got through." Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong quote here. That's a Eric Gomez, president of Golden Boy Promotions. That's my mistake. Anyway, I'll go off the top of my head. David Lemieux said that he'd rather fight Golovkin again and not get a rematch with Saunders, because at least with Golovkin, he's not going to run. First of all, Golovkin didn't run the first fight, and Lemieux still couldn't catch him. So what does that tell you? It is that you don't have to run. Second of all, he accuses Billy Joe Saunders of running, and by looking at Lemieux's face after the fight, he's sure, it seems, Saunders ran. He ran over his face, because he was all busted up and scratched and sore. That wasn't from running, that was from jabs and left crosses. So Lemieux, after the fight, he showed a little bit why he fought the same way against Saunders like he did against Golovkin, hitting nothing but air and making no changes. Why? Because he's a hard-headed individual. He decided not to give Billy Joe Saunders any credit. In his mind, everything's fine, everything's hunky-dory. All he needs to do is catch a guy. Listen, David Lemieux is going to look great against guys that can't move and that don't have great defense. Well, actually, that's not quite true. Hassan and Dam and Gabriel Rosado were able to move, but he was able to catch him. Billy Joe Saunders, I think at this point, has proven that he is a level above guys like Rosado and Hassan and Dam. And let me tell you something, Kimbucho, you might find this controversial, but if somebody wanted to tell me that Billy Joe Saunders is the number 2 middleweight in the world, I wouldn't argue. Now, let me explain why. Because it's a tricky situation. Canelo Alvarez is the linear champ. He beat Miguel Cotto. That being said, since 2015, when he beat Cotto, we're talking about Canelo here, who has he beaten? Has he beaten any credible middleweights? He beat Amir Khan, not a middleweight. He beat Liam Smith, a good opponent, but again, not a middleweight. Then he beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., who was a bigger guy, but hadn't done anything since getting spanked by Fonfara, Adelaide heavyweight. But okay, he was a big guy, let's give him a little credit. But again, not a top contender at middleweight, or at any other weight for that matter. Then he had a draw against Golovkin, which, let's face it, should have been a loss. So what has he done since? Nothing. Meanwhile, Billy Joe Saunders took out Andy Lee, a top 10 middleweight with a title. He took on Will Monroe Jr., who is a top 10 middleweight, credible middleweight at least. And now David Lemieux, the fearsome puncher, and he did it by going to his backyard. So you got to give him some extra points for that as well. So if you want to say, listen, I still think the number 1 and 2 guys are Golovkin and Canelo. But Billy Joe Saunders is the classic number 3. Now, if you look at the ring middleweight rankings, they have Canelo as a champ, Golovkin as number 1, Daniel Jacobs number 2. But if you want to take away Canelo Alvarez as the linear champ, which you can't really do, because officially he didn't lose. So, but technically, I still think Gennady Golovkin is a cream of the crop at middleweight, followed by Alvarez and followed by Billy Joe Saunders. And Daniel Jacobs, I don't put him at number 3 anymore, because since he lost to Golovkin, so that takes points away, even though it was a good performance for him. He beat Quillin and Luis Arias. Luis Arias, a good, decent win, but Arias doesn't have the resume of a top 10 guy. He wasn't a top 10 guy. So I think Billy Joe Saunders definitely improved his stock in this fight. I don't know what you think, Bucho. Am I crazy here?
Yeah, I'd put Saunders and Canelo in the same spot.
Saunders and Canelo. in the same spot. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like they're tied. It's a tie. Like you have to fight.
2A
Like,
and
we can
2A
argue
and 2B.
who's above who, but
Right,
like,
you're saying 2A
Golovkin,
and 2B.
Saunders, and Canelo are the top 3 middleweights.
That's right. Okay, that makes sense. Can you hear me? Okay, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. Ooh, we got Cover Operative in the chat room saying, Mr. BDA King, greetings, gentlemen, greetings, and congratulations on picking Billy Joe Saunders. By the way, that was a very good pick. Sasquatch saying, "What's up, BDA?" He's saying, "What's up from the woods of Virginia?" Not the woods of. Where was Sasquatch seen? In Seattle, right? Or somewhere in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, he's all over the place, man.
Do you believe in Bigfoot, by the way?
Yeah.
Just like
yeah, there's something, man. Like
there's got to be something, man. Too many people have reported.
Yeah, I've seen some creatures like that. You know, before they didn't even know gorillas were real. You know, they thought it was.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Legends and stuff.
But here's the thing: with a gorilla, you can at least film it. Nobody since the tape, that famous tape from the 50s or 60s, there hasn't been any credible footage from of Bigfoot. So it's weird, isn't it? I mean, how do you explain that? Everybody's got a camera now.
Yeah, but it's in the middle of fucking nowhere, man. Like.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. By the way, you think Sasquatch rapes people or?
Probably.
Sanctus Deus Cruor. Shout out to Sanctus. He says, Jacobs, Triple G, Saunders in that order. Okay, Jacobs number 1.
Oh, I forgot about Jacobs.
But wait, he has.
Nah, he's still in there. Yeah.
But he has Jacobs in number 1.
No, that's bullshit. I don't
Or
think he. No, who said that?
Sanctus Deus Cruor.
He's joking.
Cover Operative says, Bucho believes in Bigfoot as he wears sneakers size 15. Luis Catorce says, my wife was a Bigfoot. I think we've all been there. We've all had to sleep with a couple of Bigfoots once in a while. You know.
Where does Charlo fit in this? Charlo hasn't done anything at middleweight yet.
No, but he has potential. He has potential.
He has potential. Oh yeah, I want to see it. I want to see how. I like they're exciting, man. They have power, both of them. But to start saying that Charlos should get a title shot. It's like why? Like you have to beat either Jacob, Saunders, fight Canelo.
Okay. Sanctus Deus Cruor is saying no, I'm not. I think he's saying no, he doesn't have Jacobs as number 1. Okay, because I thought you said in order, and you said Jacobs first, so I assume that's what you were saying. Cachnello, give me my fight, is in the chat room. He's saying he's the same dummy regarding Sanctus. He's the same dummy that said Kovalev is a dirty fighter. Oh yeah, that discussion from a couple of weeks back. That was a good discussion. We may have to talk about that now. Akuma's Deception in the chat. Shout out to Akuma. He says Charlo beat a guy with blown out knees. Okay.
Yeah, I know. He couldn't knock him out. He had trouble knocking him out. So now I'm questioning his power, man. Like, because let's be honest, this guy Charlo was a big light middleweight.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a huge advantage, and he's a good boxer, right? So, but on top of that, he was very big for that weight. Now he's fighting guys like, let's say, his size,
Mm-hmm.
So he might have, he might not have the same power at middleweight. So we have to wait and see.
All right. Cameron Gillon is saying, when are you inviting? We'll invite in a couple of minutes. In a couple of instances. We just got to get some things out of the way here, some news. Well, actually, I got the list here of things we can talk about. So we do make preparation, gentlemen. We're not coming in here with our.
Yeah, give me the list here.
Yeah, we don't come in here with our cock half hard. We actually come in fully stiff and ready to go. Is that right, Bucho?
That's correct.
I like how you say that with enthusiasm.
Man, I'm kind of fucking tired today, but
yeah,
you know my lifestyle.
I saw the tweets you were sending out there about you and your extracurricular activities with alcoholic beverages. That's really great. But hey, listen, Christmas is approaching. You gotta decompensate a little bit, right? You gotta deflate a little bit.
Of course.
Okay, so I guess if you want to start inviting people, and again, guys, if you want to join us, there's a link in the description. Short 1-minute video on how to join us. If you don't know how, it's not that complicated. Just if you have a Gmail account, just go to Google Hangouts and follow the instructions in the video that's on the description, and you can join us there. So, Butch, if you want to start inviting people, go right ahead. Meanwhile, I'll take over. And okay, so I have a quote here from Eric Gomez that I saw on Boxing Scene. Eric Gomez, by the way, is Golden Boy Promotions president, and he's talking about Canelo's possible fight against Billy Joe Saunders. He says, we already knew he was a good fighter, but what surprised us is how much he runs. He does not allow himself to fight. He starts running. It's a very annoying style. Canelo already fought with a similar style when he took on Erislandy Lara, and he got through it. So having said that, we're going to keep the focus on the tiebreaker with Golovkin, Gomez said to ESPN Deportes. First of all, Saunders didn't run. Like I said, the worst thing you can say is that he ran over David Lemieux's face. Did you see Lemieux's face after the fight? It was all scratched up. So that's not from running. But that was the sweet science right there. Billy Joe Saunders boxed very well, stuck and move, stick and move, classic style, and he did that. As for Canelo, Eric Gomez saying that, criticizing Billy Joe Saunders for moving a lot. What the hell was Canelo doing against Gennady Golovkin during the middle rounds? There was a whole lot of moving and not a whole lot of punching. Now listen, I'm not saying Billy Joe Saunders is better than Canelo, because Canelo is a very economical fighter. He'll look for opportunities and counter. But let's face it, guys, he was moving a lot and he didn't punch enough. Now you got to give Golovkin credit, but he took away Canelo's offense. Golovkin was very hard to hit as well in that fight. For a guy that doesn't move his head a whole lot, he does parry and block a lot of shots very well. And of course, he has that chin tucked in very well. So he knows what he's doing. So for Eric Gomez, this is classic blah, blah, blah. Classic talking, classic this guy is bad, we don't want to fight him. They don't want to fight him because they know he could spoil Canelo's plans. He could make Canelo look bad. And at this point, like in The Godfather, a man in my position can't afford to be made to look ridiculous. That's the same thing with Canelo. His Q rating right now, he's suffering a little bit of backlash still from the Golovkin draw, so he can't afford to go in there against a guy like Billy Joe Saunders. It's just not gonna happen. But now, Butch, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, so they don't want to fight Billy Joe Saunders, Canelo's team. They don't want to fight him. But they're talking about, obviously, they have the Golovkin rematch in their sights. Have you heard anything? And if Cameron comes in the line, we might ask him, but have you heard anything
He's
about...
there.
Oh, he's here right now?
Cameron's there, yeah.
Cameron, are you there?
Yeah, I'm muting myself.
Hey, what's up, man?
Okay.
What did he say?
He muted himself.
Oh, okay, so Cameron, how are you, man?
Yeah, I'm all good. How are you?
Great, great. Listen, we're here with Cameron. He's a writer, and we got his information in the description if you want to follow his tweets. And from your Twitter account, we can link to your. You can link to your articles, right?
Yeah, all my articles are on my Twitter. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for joining us, Victor. And Cameron. Now, I wanted to ask you, man, because we're talking about Golovkin, and I don't know if you heard the comment that I just read from Eric Gomez saying, Canelo's. The president of Golden Boy Promotions, he says they don't have Billy Joe Saunders in their sights. I wanted to ask you, Cameron, have you heard anything regarding Golovkin's rematch with Canelo? Is that going to happen in May, or are they trying to stretch that out to September?
No, well, what I'm hearing is it is going to happen in May. I think it's pretty much a lock that it's going to happen. I don't see it not happening at all at this point.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people kind of behind the scenes are saying that it's going to happen. And it could be announced fairly soon. But the reason I don't blame Canelo for not kind of not looking at Saunders, because Saunders is stylistically is a tough fight for him. He's not a big name, even though he fought Lemieux on HBO. He doesn't drive big interest. But it's never. I don't really think anybody would call Canelo a ducker. He didn't have to fight Trout. He didn't have to fight Lara, of all people. Nobody wanted. If Canelo didn't fight Lara, nobody would have really cared, other than the kind of hipsters and all that who kind of say he's avoiding Lara and all that. The same people who say Golovkin's ducking him, but I think Canelo would actually fight Saunders. I think they've just kind of got Golovkin on their mind in a minute, and I think that's kind of why they're not really talking about Saunders.
Yeah, that's a good point. He's got Golovkin on his side. It's unfinished business, and it's obviously a bigger money fight than if he took on Saunders, who, it's a risk. It's a slicker guy than Golovkin, and although he doesn't punch as hard as Golovkin, he does move more. And we know that Canelo, if you don't give him an opening, he doesn't look spectacular in there. So, yeah, I guess you're right. That Golovkin fight has to happen. It just makes sense. It's a logical progression. Who else is on the chat here? We got Ray. How are you, man? Good. Thank you for joining us, man. So Cameron, I wanted to ask you another thing. I don't know if you've heard also about David Lemieux's comments. After the fight, he didn't really give Saunders any credit, and he looked a lot in that fight. He looked as lost as he did against Golovkin. You would have figured after the beating he took and all the jabs he ate from Golovkin, he would have learned how to slip that jab. I mean, what's going on with David Lemieux? Is he just a hard-headed individual, or is he just not that skilled?
Yeah, I think you just kind of said it at the end there. I think he's peaked. I think, you know, what we've seen from Saunders is what we're going to get now. I think, you know, people are talking about, you know, him getting a new trainer and everything. I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I don't really think Lemieux. I was on the actual Thursday show and I said this. I think Lemieux he's not going to get. You can't really change his style at this point. I mean, you can kind of add, you know, polish it up a bit, but I think, you know, what Lemieux is what he is. You know, he's a one-dimensional puncher, and he just came up against somebody who was all wrong for him stylistically and basically exposed his flaws as being one-dimensional. And you know, you saw what Lemieux was doing against Saunders. He was kind of planting his feet and throwing big right hands and hooks and everything, and Saunders was just nowhere near him. And Lemieux didn't know how to break him down. He didn't know how to cut the ring off, and Saunders was just finding him to be a punch bag basically. So I thought Lemieux, I didn't like his, you know, his excuses after. You know, I think he was just a bit embarrassed. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I put on Twitter after the fight. It was a translation. What he said was a translation for, he was all wrong for me. I just wasn't good enough. That's basically what he was saying at the end there. But obviously he wasn't going to say it. But he just didn't know what to do in there. And I said it, like, Lemieux's he's always going to look good against fighters who and, you know, they're very sort of one-dimensional as well. You know, that's why Curtis Stevens was so good for him. Reyes was, you know, he was pretty basic as well. Anyone who's basic will look good for Lemieux. So once you bring him up against somebody who's technically better than him, he's going to look like he did against Saunders and Golovkin.
Yeah, you're right. Listen, it's a question of styles. If you want to have David Lemieux look like a beast, put him in there against guys that can move all that well. But listen, Billy Joe Saunders, I think you got to, you know, we're always giving him credit because Hassan N'Dam was a mover and he couldn't do what Billy Joe Saunders did to Lemieux. Although late in the fight, Hassan N'Dam was getting to Lemieux a little bit, but even then, it was a good win. Now, Lemieux, as we talked about last week, he didn't look that great during the weigh-in, and now he looked awful against Billy Joe Saunders. Should he stay at middleweight, or should he just listen to his body and move up to super middleweight?
I think he'd be better at super middleweight because, you know, he always looks bad at the weigh-in at middleweight, but I thought he looks really sort of dry on the weigh-in for Saunders. And realistically, he's not going to win a title. I mean, he's talking about, you know, he wants to get back to a title. I mean, the two guys who hold all the belts to middleweight, he's been outclassed by now, and I don't think he beats Jacobs, and I don't think he beats Canelo. I don't think he beats some other fighters that are coming through either. I think, you know, it'd be better at super middleweight because super middleweight is much more of an open division. Whether or not, if he carries the power up, he'd have a good chance because, I mean, super middleweight division is pretty dry. You know, there's not really much there now, especially now Truax has beat DeGale. You know, DeGale was kind of regarded as an elite fighter, and Truax just came out of nowhere and beat him. And I think a lot of super middleweights will be gunning to fight Truax now. But Lemieux, for me, I'd like to see him at super middleweight because he's not going to do much at middleweight. And I think there's some more exciting fights for him at super middleweight. So I don't know. I'd rather see him at super middleweight, but I think he will stay at middleweight.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. And because listen, with Truax, like you said, people are fucking licking. There's a bunch of super middleweights out there licking their chops, thinking about getting a fight with Truax. Now, Ray, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to ask you now. If David Lemieux moves up to super middleweight, will he be able to compete at that weight? Because let's face it, the guy's not the tallest guy in the world, even as a middleweight. And there's a lot of tall movers at 168. How do you see him doing at that in that division?
Yeah, you know, man, I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. Yeah, like you said, most of those guys are definitely a lot taller. But I think there's still a few decent fights for him at middleweight. You know, he could fight Andre or Murata or someone, you know. Even Derevchenko. Derevchenko would probably school him, but I mean, I'd still like to see that fight.
Yeah, but
there's some good fights for him still at middleweight, but I don't know if he'd do as well.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, if he can't make the weight at middleweight, it's gonna be pretty hard. If he can make 160, if he's making 160 with difficulty, and he's draining himself and all that, he's in a catch 22 here right now. It's the dreaded position of a boxer. You can't fight at your weight anymore, but you're too small or too short, I should say, for most of the top super middleweights out there, or people in the higher division. I mean, so what does he do from now? I mean, if you guys were his promoter, what would be the tactic to go from here?
I mean, I'd tell him to move up. There's some good fights at 168 for him. I think he could fight like maybe one of the Jarrells or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's take a look at the ratings here from Ring Magazine at middleweight. Let me just put him up. This is
Gross too. I mean, even if DeGale is shot as people say he is, he might be able to put him out.
Well, that's the thing. Listen, you look at number 10, Julian Bragmer. I don't know how tall he is. We know David Benavides is very tall. Anthony Dirrell is lengthy as well, and Andre Dirrell as well. They're both good guys with hand speed, which could give problems for the short Lemieux. James DeGale, listen, who knows what the hell's up with this guy? I mean, he didn't look good against Truex. Truex is the guy that everyone's gunning for, but I wonder who's going to get to him first. Chris Eubank Jr., now that would be a good fight because he's not a stick and move type of guy. He's an inside fighter now. He loves to go in there on the inside and throw.
Yeah, he moved up too, and I don't think he was really having trouble making weight either.
No, he wasn't.
I think Eubank's speed and stamina, I think he destroyed Lemieux personally.
Yeah, I think he beats Lemieux at his own game.
Yeah, I think he does too. He definitely held up with Billy Joe for several rounds. I don't think that fight was a complete wipeout, but I know Billy Joe really did. I mean, he comfortably won, but I think, it'd be a tough fight for David. I don't think he could win that fight.
Yeah, I've seen clips of Eubank sparring. He loves, even when he's sparring, he loves to go to war on the inside. I mean, I think that's where he's most comfortable right now. So, David Lemieux, at least he wouldn't have to chase him down, but it's a big guy with punching powers. So, I mean, I don't know if that's a great fight for him. Colin Smith, how tall is he? This guy, I think he's
really tall.
Yeah, that's not a.
Yeah, he's way over 6 foot. How he makes his middleweight, I don't know. He's taller than most light heavyweights.
Gilberto's pretty tall too.
Yeah, but then again, he's not exactly a mover, so you never know. George Groves is a mover, and he's fought some big guys himself, so I mean, I don't know.
I'll tell you a good fight for Lemieux at super middle would be Matt Korobov. That'll be an exciting fight.
Matt Korobov. Yeah, he's not even listed in the top 10 because he hasn't. What has he done since losing to Andy Lee?
No, that's what I mean. He has. I mean, he's been talking on Twitter over the last sort of few weeks saying he wants to fight Saunders and all that. But he was ranked number 4 in the WBO. Okay. I'm not sure if he is now, but I think he might be ranked in the WBO, but I think he might have dropped down because of inactivity. But I think, he's a former middleweight, and he can punch as well. I think that'll be a good fight for Lemieux. I think Lemieux and Korobov will be a good. I mean, you can even do Lemieux and Andy Lee, seeing as you mentioned him. I think that'll be a good fight as well.
Is Andy Lee still fighting, by the way?
I don't think he's fought the Triple G.
Jacobs undercard, yeah, he hasn't fought since then, but
that was a horrible fight. Horrible.
He says he's only coming back for a big fight. He says he's only going to come back for a big fight.
Yeah, that was that one.
That was one of the most boring fights I've ever seen. He was extremely scared to throw a punch for the entire 12-round fight.
Well, listen, it would be a good fight for Lemieux because Andy Lee is an old man now. For a boxer, and he's always had chin issues. So, yeah, that would be a good matchup. And we all know Andy Lee can punch with that right hook, so it would be an entertaining fight. But again, like you guys said, if Andy Lee's saying he only wants big fights, I don't know how doable.
I don't see him getting one.
You don't see him getting one?
I don't see him getting one. I mean, he fought in, the Triple G Jacobs fight was in March. Before that, I think he took over a year layoff. So you're looking at one fight in 2 years. Nothing scheduled, and haven't heard nothing about the guy, whether he's been in the gym keeping up or anything like that. I don't think he wants it anymore.
Nah, well, listen, if he did his part. He's been boxing for a while, so if he wants to call it quits, go right ahead. I wouldn't blame him not wanting to.
No problem with that.
Exactly, no problem with that. Now, speaking of the middleweight division, so Billy Joe Saunders, I mentioned a little something at the beginning of the show. I said that I wouldn't mind putting Billy Joe Saunders as a number 2 guy behind Golovkin at middleweight. Now, I said it was tricky because technically Canelo is the number 1 guy as he's a linear champion. But listen, Cameron, Canelo hasn't done all that much at middleweight either. I mean, he hasn't beaten any top middleweights. What do you think about
He's
that?
only fought really middleweight one time.
Yeah, Cameron, what do you think about that?
What was the question? Do I think Canelo's number 2 at middleweight?
I said if somebody wanted to rank Billy Joe Saunders number 2 behind Golovkin, I wouldn't mind.
Oh no, I think Saunders is ranked number 2 myself. Basically on the fact that Saunders' win over Lemieux is better than anything Canelo's done at middleweight so far. So that's why I'd have Saunders number 2. I mean, you can go off what you want of who you think wins. If you think Canelo beats Saunders, fact of the matter is Saunders has a better resume at middleweight. And he's a world champion, so I think he has to go at number 2. I mean, he's the only other champion without, fair enough, Canelo's a lineal champion, but look who he beat for the title.
Mm-hmm.
And Saunders holds the other sort of recognised sanctioning body world title, so I think you have to put Saunders number 2. Or at least I do anyway.
Yeah, but again, like I said, it's a tricky situation because Canelo technically is the lineal champion. But then again, I thought Golovkin beat him, but we can't reverse a decision now, can we? And
I mean, he cherry-picked that fight from somebody who cherry-picked the previous fight to get that belt. So, I mean...
Yeah, there was no way Cotto would have fought a middleweight if Martinez was the way he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And that win will always have an asterisk there. Now, when it comes to Canelo and Golovkin, I don't want to get too much into that fight because we'll get to that if it ever the rematch ever happens. But would it be safe to say that whoever wins that fight in a conclusive fashion, whether it's a decision or a stoppage, deserves to be the number 1 guy?
What's that, Canelo and Golovkin?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the winner of that fight is definitely number 1. Especially if Canelo wins. I think Golovkin's regarded as the best middleweight in the world. So if Canelo beats him, which I wouldn't be surprised if he does in a rematch, because Golovkin's definitely slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
And the longer this rematch sort of waits out, I favour Canelo to win. But I think, whoever wins this fight has to be number 1. I think Saunders has to be the winner of this fight to be the number 1 himself. I mean, no matter who, Saunders could beat Jacobs and he could beat Murata if he wanted to. He'd still have to beat, Golovkin or Canelo to win that fight to be number 1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're trying to stretch this one out, man, as much as they can. It's a strategy. And it's a smart strategy, but it's also, I mean, I don't think they're going to stretch it out. Like you said, they're probably going to fight in May, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think so, yeah.
Now, Ray, just hypothetical question here. If the Golovkin versus Canelo rematch would have been pushed to September, do you think that would have caused a lashback against Canelo?
Yeah, I think a lot of people would have been disappointed, especially as soon as the first fight was over. He was talking immediately, May. We're gonna do it in May, and that he was calling out and saying that's it. I'm taking a break until May. So, but it won't be the first time that Canelo and Golden Boy have not gone through with what they said on. And I don't, it's not like it's hurt him anyway. I mean, people still buy his pay-per-views in masses. So
exactly,
he can do whatever he wants. He can drop belts. He can duck fights. I mean, when you're you're the most popular fighter in the world, you can do that and get away with it.
Yeah, that's one of the perks of that. Now, I'm looking at the chat, and Cachinello giving my fight says, Lemieux beats the Dirrell sisters at 168. Yeah, listen, the Dirrells, it's interesting. I was reading an article from 2004. I was going through my Ring magazine collection, and there was an article right after the Dirrells from the 2004 Olympics, after they came back from, what was it, Australia? Athens, yeah, sorry, in Athens. And Andre Dirrell got the bronze in those Olympics games, and the article essentially was asking how far could Dirrell go, and they were already painting him as a bit of an underachiever because based on his talent they expected more out of him in the Olympics. And I'm just looking back at it now, and it's been 13 years since that article was written. I was expecting big things from the Dirrells myself. Andrew Ward is the only one really from that American team. Was that?
But let's be honest. I said, let's be honest. If you go back to the Super Six, you know, that was kind of made for one of the Europeans to win, but Durrell was kind of the American hype. I mean, nobody really knew anything about Ward. You know, Andre Durrell was kind of the American hopeful in that tournament, and obviously Andre Ward went on to win it.
Yeah, because Durrell looks more impressive sometimes, you know, with Durrell's style, because he has hand speed and power, and he relies more on that talent than Andre Ward does. Andre Ward was, you know, if you look at him in his early fights, he definitely looked faster than he did in recent years, but he wasn't as flashy. You know, it was always based on technique and on certain, how shall I say, you know, dirty tactics that he employed to win. But overall he definitely proved to be a much better fighter than Durrell, either of the Durrell brothers. So it's just interesting, man. 13 years afterwards, or 13. I mean, I'm looking back at it now and I go, man,
those guys have no heart.
Check Hangouts.
Check Hangouts.
Durrell was was more sort of entertaining. I mean, I don't find him entertaining myself, but Durrell, you know, he was trash talking Froch. Durrell was kind of more entertaining to watch outside the ring and inside the ring than Andre Ward was back then as well. So that's why people were kind of more attached to Durrell than they were with Ward, because, you know, Ward's never trash talked. He's always been, you know, very low tone, and Durrell, he kind of went at Froch. So it was kind of entertaining to watch in a way.
I think Lemieux would beat both of them by no mas.
By no mas? What is he, Vasil Lomachenko now?
No, I don't mean making him quit. I mean giving him a way out, like, you know, crying after a hit after a bell or a low blow. They'll take an easy way out and do something. They'll, you know, which is the same as quitting. They've done in the last 3 fights.
We'd have no Maschenko, and if David Lemieux makes him quit, we'll have no Mas you.
All right. All right, we got Michael Matias on the line. Michael, are you there?
Yeah, what's going on, guys?
How are you, man?
Pretty good.
All right, now listen, since you just came in, I want to ask you. We're talking about the Durrell brothers. I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with them, and I don't know how long you've been following boxing, but are you surprised at how their career turned out? Their careers?
These are the guys that they signed with Rock Nation at first, didn't they?
Well, not at first, but at some point, yeah, they did sign.
After a while.
Did they sign with Lou DiBella at first or something like that?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Well, they ended up with Rock Nation, or was that somebody? I think it was something else.
Yeah, they've not been with Rock Nation in Durrell.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, either way, are they with Heyman?
I think so, man.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, listen, look at your screen. It's them. Andrew Durrell, Anthony Durrell. You might recognize them. I'm not surprised.
No,
they fight once a year, man.
Yeah,
they fight once a year, so they're not going to Heyman fighters. Right.
No, I know who they are. I couldn't remember if they were signed with Heyman or Rock Nation. Well, all right. So either way, it doesn't really surprise me much. That side of the umbrella, I mean, you know, is pretty much known for inactivity. With those guys, I mean, they've had an opportunity to, you know, make a name for themselves in the sport. You know, whether if it's, you know, their, you know, ideal wanting to not be as active as they wanted to, or they've had either, you know, promotional issues. It kind of goes into like the same category of what, you know, these guys with and PBC are struggling with. But I mean, they're getting paid too, so, you know.
Well, listen, by the way, somebody
it
in
is
the
what it is.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Somebody Sanctus clarified things. He said that the Roll Brothers signed with 50 Cent, who I believe
that explains their career downfall in the last few years.
Yeah, and didn't he closed shop, right? I mean, he's done with promoting.
Yeah, he had James Kirkland, didn't he? I remember, and he had Gamboa. So
Gamboa. I mean, it ain't easy breaking.
Yeah, Gamboa didn't. After he left Top Rank and he went to 50 Cent, he didn't amount to anything.
Gamboa, yeah, that's the thing. Listen, you need respectable, experienced promoters. But these fighters, man, they meet up with these new promoters who come in with a lot of cash, and they look at the money and they say, "Hey, I wanna sign with them. I'm gonna get a big payday for doing little." But then long term, not a good choice, man. I'm looking at the
Rock Nation, when they came in, they were talking about they offered Broner a big fat amount of money, and then obviously they wanted Thurman as well. I mean,
they offered Broner a $40 million contract.
I wish he took that. To be fair, I bet he did take. I bet he does wish he took that now.
He made a smart choice.
You know what? I don't know. He actually might be really loyal to Al Heyman, so I'm not really sure if he really still misses out on it because, about a year and a half ago, he was offered to fight Manny Pacquiao for $4 million, and he turned that down, saying that was a disrespectful offer from Top Rank and Bob Arum. And he only makes, I think his highest purse was a quarter of what Bob Arum offered Broner for a pay-per-view fight. And I think that wasn't even considering pay-per-view upside as well. So I think he could have made some more money with pay-per-view upside.
Well, I was about to say, Al Heyman gives him title shots after he loses, so that's probably another reason why he stays with him.
Right. So it's it's loyalty as well too for a lot of these guys that are with Heyman.
It was one of the few smart choices, bro. I mean, it was a smart choice for Broner staying with the PBC because listen, at least the PBC will get you if you're with the gold plan. If you're in the gold plan, you get at least 2 fights a year. With Rock Nation, who the hell knows what you get, man, long term. And this is classic PBC. This is every new promoter coming up to new fighters. I mean, 2 fighters. Whoops,
no, and guys like Andre Ward and Miguel Cotto who signed with Rock Nation. I mean, they were at some point in their careers where inactivity wasn't a huge deal for them. Rock Nation gave Cotto a nice contract. They weren't able to. They gave him I think 2 fights in 2015, and they couldn't give him another fight after that. But I mean, they were losing money on him. They lost a lot of money on Andre Ward too. Rigondeaux, since he left Top Rank too, he didn't amount to anything either. These younger fighters now that are coming out, they need to really, really be mindful of who they're signing with. If you're gonna sign with, someone like 50 Cent, someone like Rock Nation, who's been in the business of music all their lives, and decides for some reason want to be in the business of boxing promoting, they're not promoting boxing isn't going to be their number one priority. And promoting in boxing takes a lot of effort. I mean,
especially
this is like a part-time job for these guys, and I know it may be a little bit different for Rock Nation because they have a separate entity, in terms of sports, for these guys, but we've seen it in negotiations and how they handle their fighters. Rock Nation doesn't really know what they're doing in terms of promoting and in terms of trying to how important it is to keep fighters active. So
yeah, you make a good point, man, because like you said, it's a part-time thing for these guys. It's a passion project. It's like, oh, I like boxing, I have money, I'm gonna get into this part-time. But like you said, it's hard to break into a market. Like, yeah, it's true that it's right now it's Top Rank and Golden Boy who own the market, but just because there are 2 people doesn't mean the 2 promotional entities doesn't mean it's easy to break into boxing. These 2 promotional companies have a lockdown on most of what goes on in boxing, followed by the PBC, and that was just because the PBC had a lot of money. But now you see how it turns out with the PBC, even with all the money they had, and with Al Heyman, who is a savvy guy, it's not working out, man. So yeah, just because they flash some money doesn't mean they're gonna be able to do well.
Yeah, unfortunately for younger people, money talks, and I don't blame them. It is what it is. I mean, like I said, with guys like Andre Ward and Miguel Cotto, I don't blame those guys. You know, they already had established careers when they signed with Rock Nation. So, you know, inactivity for them wasn't going to be that much of a big deal. They were in there for the money, you know, and they you know, they put their dent in the sport. But when it comes to younger guys, you know, like I said earlier, you know, these promotional companies aren't viewing your career as a number one priority. Their number one priority still is the music industry and the music business. So, you know, I can't really feel bad for some of these guys that sign, you know, with you know, with Rock Nation and so forth. You know, and people, you know, and a huge discussion before the Lomachenko Rigondeaux fight was, you know, how poorly Bob Arum did for Guillermo Rigondeaux. And I got to tell you, I completely disagree. You know, Arum signed Rigondeaux, you know, from the get-go, and put him on a lot of pay-per-view undercards to give him exposure. He gave him a platform to fight Nonito Donaire on HBO. He did a great job outboxing Donaire. And then he gave him another platform to fight Joseph Ekbeko. And we all know how that turned out. They were leaving the arena. I mean, the main event went down 200,000 views from what was it, who was the co-main event in that fight?
I think it was Edgar Sosa against
it was like James Kirkland against, it was a really good fight.
Oh, it was Kirkland against Tapia, I think, right?
Yes, it was Tapia. And then, you know, once Rigondeaux and Ekbeko came on, you know, onto the main event, people started leaving the arena and people turned off the TV. So, you know, right after that, you know, when Bob Arum says that HBO didn't want Rigondeaux on their platform, I kind of believe him, because right after that fight, he put Rigondeaux on an undercard in Macau, China. And after that, the contract was, you know, had ended, and he allowed Rigondeaux to, you know, decide to sign somewhere else. So he gave Rigondeaux two platforms on a main event on HBO, and he gave him multiple opportunities to, you know, be on pay-per-views, undercards, you know. And for people to say, oh, he should have done more, you know, I don't know what else he could have done. You know, he gave him those two options for Rigondeaux on a main event on HBO. You know, obviously, you know, it didn't work out, so he allowed Rigondeaux to sign somewhere else. Maybe whoever took care of you know, whoever was going to sign Rigondeaux was able to do a better job. And clearly Rock Nation didn't do a better job, because they didn't even put him on any, you know, main event platform. You know, they were putting him under, you know, undercards on Andre Ward pay-per-views against Kovalev.
Go ahead.
I think up to a certain point, it's up to the boxer to sell himself. Once a promotional company does himself, and he did nothing.
Absolutely, he did
nothing. No attempt to sell himself.
He made no attempt to speak English. He made no attempt to, you know, to really give himself a personality change. I mean, if you're going to have the style that Guillermo Rigondeaux has, you have to, and I don't know how it is in the UK, because I know the UK fan base is way better than the American fan base. But what sells in America is action, and that's what Guillermo Rigondeaux lacks. And now, in no, you know, I'm in no shape and form to tell Rigondeaux to change his style. You know, if he chooses to have that style, you know, go right ahead and do it. You know, but I mean, this is America, you know, and the only way that style sells is if you have a flashy personality like Floyd Mayweather and Adrian Broner. Right. Because other than that, you better expect to not, you know, make a lot of money.
You know, everything you're saying right now, I agree with you.
It's unfortunate, and maybe he should have gone to the UK. I don't know how the UK fan base views Guillermo Rigondeaux, you know, but, you know, maybe he could have made some money over there. I have no idea. But
well, let's ask Cameron. Cameron, you're from the UK. I mean, how was Rigondeaux seen over there?
Well, he fought over it last year against Dickens.
Dickens.
He fought Dickens, and in terms of the hardcore fans who are proper boxing fans, it was a big deal. Like, if you on Twitter, Tom was like, oh, you know, we really got to go to this fight, go to this card, because, you know, to see somebody as good as Rigondeaux, we're not going to see it often, coming over here sort of thing. So a lot of people went to that card just to see Rigondeaux instead of actually, rather than seeing our own fighters. So Rigondeaux at the time, I mean, he wasn't sent out in arenas, don't get me wrong, but there were people buying tickets just to see him.
Okay, that's and that's another point too, and this is where Rigondeaux has no one really but to blame but himself and his team, because then he allowed for him to sign with Rock Nation, who doesn't really do business in the UK. So I mean, you have a UK fan base that obviously is better than America, and they are able to, they're able to accept any type of style, and they appreciate boxing more than American fans here in the United States. So maybe he could have signed with, I don't know, Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren or somebody in the UK, and he could have fought primarily off there, and he would have had a better, following. Maybe he would have made more money over there. But, again, he chose his career. He chose his, his personality, who he signed with, Yeah, it's up to the fighter to really promote himself after that. Because look at what Floyd Mayweather did after he left. He bought himself out from Top Rank. Top Rank gave him a nice pathway, on pound for pound rankings, but he wasn't nearly as popular, until he began to promote himself in that Oscar De La Hoya fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because before that he was selling 300,000 pay-per-views, 200,000, and he wasn't selling out arenas. So he found a brilliant way to promote himself, and that led him, to make all the type of money that he's making now. And obviously, It helps that his skill set he was able to back it up. But even look at Adrian Broner too. I mean, he has 3 losses, and we don't consider him as elite, but Showtime doesn't, their viewers don't do as many views as HBO does, but I think their top 3 views of Showtime out of the top 20 premium network shows, 2 of those out of 3 Showtime shows were Adrian Broner main events. So
well,
I mean,
everything you said, man, I've said it before as well in other podcasts. You hit the nail right on the head. Just because you're slick and undefeated doesn't mean you're going to be a star. It takes more than that. It's up to the fighter, like you said. It's up to the fighter to make an effort and make himself marketable. Now listen, Rigondeaux was a tough case because, like you said, he never learned how to speak English. He refused to be halfway entertaining, at least throw some combinations. Like, I want to go back to the Mayweather example you gave. Mayweather, when he was known as Pretty Boy Floyd, and he was complaining about slave wages from the HBO contract that he had at least, I think in 2004 it was when he hired some sort of like a promotional PR entity that was going to promote him better, aside from his promoter Top Rank from that time. And when he fought Chop Chop Corley, when he fought Shambra Mitchell, when he fought Arturo Gatti, guys that he had outgunned, at least he fought in a more aggressive manner. And so he would have a big win by knockout, and then when he would face better opposition, he would revert to boxing. But at least he was mixing it up and trying to make himself marketable. Rigondeaux never had it in him. 2 punch at a time per round, 3 punches per round. And then now that you see him quitting, he didn't even try to go for it. So, exactly, even worse. He didn't have it in him. He never had it in him to be a varsity athlete. I mean, he just wasn't going to make an effort to become a marketable guy. And let me tell you something. I know boxing is a hard sport. You get a train day in and day out. It's a rough schedule. You got to sacrifice friends and family in order to make it in boxing. But again, the money doesn't fall from the sky. There's consumers out there that aren't making $500,000 or $1 million a year. Okay, an HBO Showtime subscription can cost up to $15 on top of the basic cable package. Okay, so if people don't want to pay to see you fight because you want to put on effort and make it at least halfway entertaining, they don't complain about. This isn't about, oh, I'm an undefeated boxer, I should be on HBO and having millions of dollars in pay-per-view buys. That just doesn't work, man. Just doesn't work.
I mean, and here's a prime example of how crucial the American market is. I mean, here you have a fighter who, I mean, if he were to fight every weekend, you would see an Orlando Salido. But it's also not just to have an entertaining style. You have to be able to sell as well too. And Top Rank gave Orlando Salido, they offered him, a $720,000 purse, which was, I think, apparently was his would have been his biggest payday to fight Lomachenko, but he pulled out because I think of an injury. That just goes to show you too. I mean, people will still tune into, to HBO to watch him, but it just goes to show you too, in order to make money too, you need to, it's not just having entertaining style. So you have to promote yourself, as well.
Yeah, man. Listen, like I said, tough business. It's a tough business, but it's called show business. Boxing is show business. You gotta show the people something. You don't show us anything. What do you want us to do? You want us to pay because why?
Yep.
Because you hit and move and stick and move and you're hard to hit. You gotta show us more than that, man.
Yep.
All right. You know what? Here's the other thing. Now that we're talking about money and risks, these boxers, they put themselves at risk. I understand that. And if they don't want to eat punches and end up punch drunk at the end of their career, I completely understand that. However, if you want to get paid millions, you got to put up a bit of a sacrifice. I'm looking here at Mikey Garcia, who says, well, first of all, let's talk about that in the context of Linares. There's talks of Linares moving up against Garcia, right? They want to fight. He wants to fight him at 140. I mean, he's willing to go up to 140 to fight him. Unfortunately, Garcia is with Al Heyman, and Linares is with Golden Boy Promotions. So there's the HBO Showtime divide. I don't know if Golden Boy wants to do business with Al Heyman, although in the past, Al Heyman fighters have moved to HBO for a one shot.
Sorry to interrupt. Here's another thing with
my
Mikey
question,
Garcia.
just real quickly, my question is...
Oh, go ahead.
My question is just, is this a fight that people want to see?
Lipinets?
I know that's
Linares.
gonna... Yeah, I know that fight's gonna happen, but I mean, would anybody be interested? I mean, is that really a fight that people are salivating over? Garcia versus Linares?
No.
Well, there you go.
I mean, who else is Mikey gonna fight besides Lomachenko?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, well, that's
See, the thing, Mikey Garcia's trying to be his own man. He's trying to he even stated that he's gonna be like Floyd or some shit like that. Like, just because you leave Bob Arum doesn't mean like you're gonna become Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, the guy has no personality, man. And then, why is he fighting this guy? Nobody wants to see him against Lipitz, whatever his name is there. So he's just making poor career choices, man, and it's gonna show later on in his career.
Look, in terms of Mikey Garcia, I honestly think the Lipinets fights is good for his career because it gives him an opportunity to become a four weight division champion in 4 different weight classes. But the thing with him though, yeah, just because he left Top Rank doesn't mean he's going to be a star. I mean, look at Terrence Crawford. I mean, he's he's an exceptional fighter. He's pound for pound #1, arguably. I think Top Rank is doing a great job with him, but he's another fighter too that needs to know how to sell himself. He
doesn't know.
He goes. Yeah, he has a very dull personality with his interviews. He doesn't like to talk to the media. I think at one point he tried to shut down the media. It's not going to sell him anything. It's not going to make him a pay-per-view star. But back to Mikey Garcia, he claims to be a free agent. But so far the past 3 fights has been all with Showtime and PBC. He says that he can, negotiate with anybody. He's open to fighting with anybody. And I guess I believe him, but he's gotta show it too, because he went on Twitter to call out Linares 2 times, had 2 different rounds of negotiations, and he ended up facing Sergey Lipinets. So here he is going on YouTube with interviews talking about how he would like to face Lomachenko, but he doesn't know if Bob Arum, is willing to match Lomachenko with him. So he's kind of trying to put the blame on Arum already, about that fight not happening, which kind of makes him, a little bit, what's the word, hypocritical, because here he's calling out Golden Boy to fight Linares twice. They had 2 rounds of negotiations, and he ended up, going to face, Sergey Lipinets. My thing is, if that fight were to ever to, be serious, to talk to with Top Rank and Mikey Garcia to make a Lomachenko Garcia fight, what's stopping him to listen to Steven Espinoza? And if they say, hey, listen, instead of fighting Lomachenko, here's, a better offer with more money to fight someone in our stable, and he winds up going over there, it's just, I need to see it first, He says he's a free agent, and then not to top it off, after he fought Adrian Broner, he went, on the mic and said, whoever wants to fight him, he can go on Showtime. So, I mean, that doesn't sound like a fighter who's really a free agent. If you're having, you're calling out people to, tell them to come over to Showtime, instead of having your options open to HBO or now even ESPN.
Well, now here's the thing about Mikey, now that you mentioned it, because you said a word there, hypocritical. In a sense, if you really want to go down that route, you take a look at Mikey Garcia. From what I read in an article a couple of years ago, when he was with his father and his brother, Robert Garcia, it's a boxing family, when he was a kid, he would go to the gym and he would play Game Boy or Game Gear or one of those 90s video games, and he would sit down and not train. I mean, this is a guy that's a natural at boxing, but who doesn't really enjoy it. He doesn't enjoy boxing. He doesn't seem terribly interested with the legacy. Now, when you look at Andre Ward, Mike, you're making a bunch of noise, man.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. With Mikey Garcia, when he had that 2-year layoff, it's almost like he didn't even care. It seems like it didn't even bother him. Andre Ward, on the other hand, you could tell that he was like, he was anxious to get back. He was forced to take that layoff because he was stubborn himself and he wanted out of his contract with Goosen. But with Mikey Garcia, he comes back and it seems like he's more interested. He's got one foot out the door. That's the way it seems to me. It seems like he's more interested in being a cop and shooting guns than actually striving for a legacy. Because listen, it makes no sense. I don't know what the details of his contract were with Top Rank, but why leave a company where you have 2 potential matchups against Lomachenko and against Crawford? He leaves that guy, and now he wants to fight
and Manny Pacquiao.
And Manny Pacquiao, exactly. That's a good point. At that time, when he was forced to take a layoff, he could have fought Pacquiao. Now he wants to face Crawford and Lomachenko after leaving Bovaro. I mean, what's going on here?
I remember at some point, Mikey Garcia was hanging out with Mayweather at some point, because there were even rumors that he was going to join Mayweather, his promotional company, right? So maybe Mayweather got into his head and went like, when I left Bob Arum, he started telling his fucking story and probably, convinced Mikey Garcia that, that's the way to go to become a star.
Is that how he talks? Is that how Mayweather talks? Like the Grinch?
Yeah, a little bitch. But yeah, anyways, that's what probably happened, man.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Floyd to say that. But I mean, Mikey Garcia talks about wanting to be a pay-per-view star, and he's trying to transition himself to be a pay-per-view star. I mean, what better way to start that opportunity to face Manny Pacquiao on a pay-per-view card? And if you wind up beating him, I mean, there's your next superstar right there.
Mm-hmm.
He's Mexican. His style isn't super exciting, but he's got power to knock people out. So, it's a little bit confusing, with his, his business aspects. He wants to be a pay-per-view star, and here he has on Top Rank, he has all these options at his disposal as well to get him over that hump. But he chose not to, sign an extension because he felt like he deserved more money. But I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, but you fight Pacquiao, we understand this. You fight Pacquiao and you get all the money you want. You get a huge payday. It's like, what? So leaving Bob Arum and avoiding a fight with Lomachenko or Pacquiao, because what? Because you want more money? Where are you gonna get the money from?
I don't know. One thing Oscar De La Hoya said, though, I don't know if he said it though, but I mean, you develop your fighters, and if they have the capability and the ability to become a pay-per-view star, the money will come once you start fighting on pay-per-view. That revenue is in it. I mean, look at Canelo Alvarez. I mean, his last 2 fights on pay-per-view were over 1 million buys. And after he fought Floyd Mayweather, Golden Boy started putting him on pay-per-views against Angulo and against Lara. There were 300,000 buys. It wasn't that strong, but by fighting more, and fighting on pay-per-view and being active and so forth, that money wound up coming to disposal, and then especially too, fighting top-notch guys, and that's really what gives you the money on the pay-per-view side is fighting those top guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
if Mikey Garcia would have stayed with Bob Arum, he would be fighting on ESPN. Imagine that.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. And now you mentioned the name ESPN. I'm still in the mindset of a couple of years ago where fighting on ESPN was actually a downgrade, but now it's actually a step up, man. You're fighting on a good channel with that has a bigger reach than HBO. And I want to ask Ray a question. Ray, are you there, man? Because I don't know if he's Ray.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, yeah, I want to ask you a question since you've stayed silent for a while here.
No, I was just letting him talk.
Yeah, okay, that's great. Michael made a good point about Mikey Garcia having the Mexican angle and that he's a puncher. That being said, he is a natural counter puncher, and we saw against Juan Carlos Burgos, when a guy goes on the defensive against him, he's not exactly Gennady Golovkin. I mean, how far is his ceiling to be a big boxing star?
Well, I mean, he's got to, I think you just got to be flashy nowadays, I mean, you got to get the knockout. People want to see the knockouts, And he seemed kind of hesitant against Broner, to be honest with you. I guess he was just nervous at that weight and maybe didn't think he had enough power. I mean, I think he really could have let his hands go and put fucking Broner out. But, no, I think I don't think he has potential to be the big pay-per-view star, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's...
Yeah, go ahead.
You just look at Canelo as kind of being Canelo and Floyd as being the last couple of blueprints for how to build a star, and those guys got a lot of exposure very on, and they had continued exposure throughout most of their career. I mean, they were always on the big channels. They were always all over the news. I mean, I think nowadays it's things that just sort of slow down unless you're already completely established. And I don't know if he ever hit that point of being a really, really top name fighter before he took his little hiatus.
And not to mention too, being a pay-per-view star is rare.
Yeah, no,
it's not even, it's like maybe 2 fighters on an era, on a given era that are pay-per-view stars. So for everybody, and this is something too that I wasn't particularly fond of hearing of Top Rank. They said that they're gonna have 2 pay-per-view cards in 2018. I think their goal is to try to make Lomachenko and Crawford pay-per-view stars. I don't see any of one of those guys becoming a pay-per-view star, unless either one of them wind up fighting Pacquiao, which obviously that fight's gonna end up having to be on pay-per-view just so that way they can pay Pacquiao what he wants. But I don't know to rush these.
How can you make Crawford a star, by the way?
Yeah,
he doesn't have the personality to be a star.
Right, it's hard.
He already was on pay-per-view against Postal, and what happened in that pay-per-view?
What, like 40,000 buys?
Yeah, and that fight, it sucked.
Well, to be fair to Crawford, it was mostly due to Postal's awkward style for Crawford. Because any other fighter we've seen Crawford fight recently, he goes for the kill. But with Postal, it was just his length and his reach just made it a little bit awkward. But
and that's I agree, and that's gonna happen at welterweight. He's gonna be fighting bigger guys.
Yeah.
So I don't even think we're gonna see this same destructive Crawford at welterweight. So I don't know if you can build a star with that type of performances that are gonna be happening.
No, and if their goal for 2 cards to be on pay-per-view means that they're just using that so that they can make harder fights, like a Terrence Crawford versus either Keith Thurman or Earl Spence. Look, they're both on Showtime, so I wrote a piece this morning about what Bob Arum said about trade-offs, which I think is a brilliant idea.
Mm-hmm.
But with guys like with guys like Terrence Crawford and Keith Thurman and Errol Spence, you know, that they might have to resort to making those fights on pay-per-view just because just to settle, you know, the money that, you know, that both these guys want, because obviously getting one either to ESPN or getting the other one to go to Crawford to go to Showtime isn't going to be a big enough demand, you know, to just, you know, let either of these promoters allow them to jump straight for a big fight like that. So I think a fight like that is going to have to wind up being pay-per-view.
I'm thinking, like, would like, is Thurman that big of a star?
No, I mean it helped.
No.
It helped that he did. Him and Garcia did 5 million views on CBS last year or earlier this year. But I mean that still doesn't equate to being you know, a pay-per-view star, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the pay-per-view model should die. You know, it never should have existed in the first place, to be honest.
I think it's always going to be there for fighters like Canelo Alvarez, who generate so much attention, and the only way they can get paid what they really want is by, you know, fighting on pay-per-view, because, you know, no network like HBO, ESPN, or Showtime are going to be able to put the proper amount of money to let a Canelo Alvarez fight, you know, for free on any of those networks. It's just way too expensive. So that's why, in my opinion, the pay-per-view model is never going to end.
Yeah, let me say one thing, because I gotta head out to work after this. But you look at the last few pay-per-view stars. You look forward, it's been people passing the torch. You've had De La Hoya passing it on to Floyd Mayweather, more or less, and you had Floyd Mayweather passing it on to Canelo. So I mean, who's Canelo going to pass it on to? You know, I don't think it's going to be Triple G. As much as I love Triple G, I don't think he's going to move on to sell that many pay-per-views. He doesn't have a whole lot of years left.
Good point.
No,
And
he's
right
already
now,
35.
Boxing has just been on the downfall for quite a while here in America, and I think we're going to see this ESPN, you know, FS1, HBO, Showtime stuff for quite a while. I think the amount of pay-per-views you're going to see, I mean, until somebody else comes along, you know, and whoops Canelo's ass, some young kid when he's, you know, in his mid-30s, you may see the next one, but until then, I don't see anyone doing it. But
now, what makes a pay-per-view star, though? Is it only talent? I think we agree that it's not. You know, it's also the antics that go outside that happen outside the ring. Right. And I remember a few years ago when there was this debate about who's going to take over Mayweather when he leaves. Obviously, Canelo took over, but some people were saying that Terrence Crawford was going to take over. I'm like, why? Because he has talent? That's not enough.
Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just say anyway, and I gotta head out to work, guys. So
all right, man. Ray, thank you for joining us, man. Don't get too hung up on work, man. You don't want to have any ulcers. You gotta take it easy over there. Well, thanks for joining us,
easy
man.
weekend. I'll be watching YouTube fights. So.
All right, that sounds like a good weekend, man.
All right,
thanks for joining us, man. Take it easy. I forgot to say Merry Christmas. That's not.
Can't say Christmas. Just to be happy holidays.
Well, listen, Bucho, you know, here we're traditional over at BDA, and we're gonna say Merry Christmas, all right? And if somebody says, "Oh, I'm not a Christian," then okay, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever else you wanna do, all right?
Festivus.
What's that?
Festivus.
Festivus, yeah, Festivus. Yeah, well, I'm gonna buy my pole, my metal pole, and put it in the fucking living room. Listen, guys, if you wanna join us, just instant messages at boxingdebate@hotmail.com via Google Hangouts. There is a link in the description, a video on how to join us. It's a 1-minute video. It's very, very simple. So if you want to join us, go right ahead. As well, don't forget to like and subscribe to this stream. It really helps us out to keep doing more of these motherfuckers. You know what, you were mentioning a good point there, Bucho, about pay-per-view stars, and you know how it takes more than just skills to be a pay-per-view star. Now at this point, I think it was Ray or Michael who mentioned how boxing has hit a bit of a lull here in North America. Now, if you look at certain fights, you know, Golovkin can fill up Madison Square Garden or the LA Forum, not the Forum, but the what's it called, the StubHub Center. So you know, in attendance-wise, it's doing very well. But we also have to take into account the internet. People are starting to cut the cord. There is internet piracy. People really, the money's tight right now. The economy isn't all that well, as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong, but people don't want to be paying $100 or let's say 79 for a fight that shouldn't be on pay-per-view in the first place. So I mean, listen, if you want to be a pay-per-view star, even Canelo, who's got the Mexican angle, who's entertaining, he's not making 500,000 pay-per-view buys against easy opposition. He has to fight solid B-sides just to be able to break or near a million buys. So something has to change. People have to step up, and like you guys were saying, you have to beat a guy like Pacquiao and Mayweather. They took the mantle from De La Hoya. Somebody's gonna have to come along or be actually in person. Now here's my question, Cameron. Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back now. Yeah.
I want to ask you a question then. Does out of all the people out there, I think Lomachenko is the one that might be able to become something more than a boxing star. I think he could, go into the mainstream. Does he have what it takes, or am I just babbling on here?
I don't think he. I think he could have what it takes. I mean, you have to move up the weight division a few more times, I think. I mean, he's learning English. His English is getting more fluent. He's doing all the right things, and he's entertaining the ring, and his Twitter's now becoming pretty entertaining as well. He's been sending tweets to Mayweather. They've been getting several thousand shares, so he's putting his name out there. Personally, I think Crawford. The thing that annoys me about this is Terence Crawford has the style to attract, to become a pay-per-view star. I think he's fun to watch. He can be aggressive. He takes people out. But the problem is he's literally the worst interviewer out there in the sport right now, because he's just so bland. He doesn't like doing the media, Crawford, which is why he never will be a pay-per-view star, in my opinion. But it's like Keith Thurman said. Thurman says, he said, I don't want to be a pay-per-view star because I want to have as many eyes on me as possible. I like that approach because, you want to see as many people watching you as you can, But obviously, if Thurman's going to say that as well, I feel, because, he's not going to be a pay-per-view star. None of his fights are going to be on pay-per-view. So I like that approach. I honestly don't. If there's anybody out there right now, it'd be Lomachenko, I'd say. But he'd have to move up to 135, 140, to really sort of say okay and dominate, to really attract that many kind of faces to him. But I think it's tough right now. You brought up a good point. There's a lot of streaming nowadays. It's tough. It's not like Mayweather and Pacquiao back in 2009 and that, where the streaming wasn't about as much. Well, it basically wasn't compared to nowadays. So you kind of had to buy it. But I think pay-per-view is just kind of a dying model, in my opinion, or slowly dying out.
Don't tell that to Eddie Hearn.
No, over in the UK. In the UK, it's different. I think in the US, it doesn't look good. In the UK, there's pay-per-view after pay-per-view over here, and it does several men. Anthony Joshua is the only real pay-per-view star in the sport right now, and as well as Canelo. Those two are the only real pay-per-view stars. So, you have to be it takes a special fighter and kind of a special figure to attract a pay-per-view audience nowadays.
Hey Cam, I've been meaning to ask you because obviously you're in the UK, you would know more about this. But in terms of with Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren, who would you say is, I guess, the more stubborn out of the two in terms of making the best fights?
This is a good one. This is a good question now. This is a good one. I'm going to be careful what I say as well. Just because I don't get access to the fighters anymore. I'd say, I think, Eddie Hearn says a lot of things saying that.
Did he cut off?
I think so.
I think he did. Cameron, we can't hear what you're saying, man. What's going on here? Did he say he was gonna go get a drink? I think that's what happened. Maybe he drank a little too much.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Now we can hear you. Yeah. Now we can hear you.
Oh yeah, good. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, what I was saying was, Eddie Hearn's put some fighters on Warren shows over the years. Frank Warren said that he put some of his fighters on Eddie Hearn shows. We've not really seen it. We've not seen the two negotiate with each other. And this is kind of where the problem's going with Tyson Fury. You know, there's talks of him joining up with Warren, and Eddie Hearn's basically said, look, if you don't sign with us, you're not going to get the Joshua fight. So to me, that, you know, Hearn's a bit reluctant to work with Warren. I mean, you got to think. I mean, obviously, I don't know how much you follow the UK scene in terms of Warren, but Warren's really on the rise since linking up with BT. You know, he's put on some good shows, and he's got Frampton Donaire now, which is a good fight over here. In terms of, you know, the shows next year, Frank Warren's kind of got more attractive shows that aren't pay-per-view than Hearn. So I think, you know, Eddie Hearn might be a bit more reluctant, in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, he's got more to lose, right?
And I mean, I think the statement that Hearn put out the other day kind of tells you. He said, look, to Tyson Fury, you either sign with us or you're not getting a Joshua fight. I mean, to me, that seems like, you know, that's basically saying, look, we're not going to be working with Warren. You know what I mean?
Well, see, now that's the thing. Frank Warren, for a while there, was the promoter over in England, but a lot of fighters ended up leaving him, man. I mean, I guess they didn't like the way he conducted business. I know Joe Calzaghe had his problems with him, Ricky Hatton as well. When did Eddie Hearn take over? It seems like it happened overnight.
2011 was when he started promoting his own fights. I mean, he promoted Audley Harrison for the David Haye fight, which was just a train wreck. That was on pay-per-view. But he signed Brooke, Frotch, and Dan Barker in 2011, and he kind of set up then.
Yeah, he's done a good job, man. He's done a good job of promoting it. He took over because he is the consensus #1, right? I mean, if Frank Warren isn't...
Like, Eddie Hearn's kind of the big sort of promoter in the UK.
Right. All right. Well, that's an interesting information there that I didn't know about. I didn't know when Eddie Hearn started taking over. All I know is that from one day to the next, boom, he was in there on YouTube all the time promoting big fights. So I'm thinking, whoa, he must have done something. Now, that's a good question, however, because we do know that there's still some organized crime elements in American boxing, for example. It's just never really spoken about as much as it used to be. But what about the organized crime in England? I mean, is there some sort of like snatch situation going on in there, or?
What was that? Say it again. Organised crime?
Yeah, in England with boxing.
What do you mean by organised crime?
Well, come on, man. You know what I'm saying. If you know a certain fight, a guy, you know, gambling. I mean, gambling. I know it's legal over there, but.
Say that again.
Good.
I know you broke up there. Sorry. What'd you say?
Yeah, in England. I mean, direct question: is organized crime in England still embedded in boxing?
I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna say yes, it is.
Now, have you heard anything about it? Like any rumors or any secondhand type of talk, or?
Not directly to me, no. I mean, I don't hear anything, you know, that I think that's concrete. You know, obviously I hear rumblings and all that, but I think, yeah, definitely. But other than that, I'm not too sure. I mean, I don't really get involved in that sort of side of it, if you know what I mean.
Well, I was just curious to see if you knew anything about it, because I don't know all that much about what's going on in England. All I know is that Jesus Christ. All right, every time that happens, we gotta let it play out. Listen, because I was just, I watch a lot of British crime movies, and I was just curious about what was going over there in England with boxing. Because boxing, it is a dirty sport, or it's considered a dirtier sport than most others. I mean, there is a lot of corruption in for example, in FIFA, in football, right? And there's corruption in the NFL and baseball. It's just, boxing is the punching bag of sports. They always, if they want to crucify a sport, it's always the first one they go to boxing. But I guess it's just because of the tradition that he had from the 1930s and 40s. But every other sport has blood on their hands and dirt on it. So let's not make it out to be as if boxing.
Boxing is always going to have corruption in its own way. We all know that. A lot of money is in the sport, and a lot of people get things their own way because of money, not necessarily because of what's right. And we see that time and time again. I mean, you see it with Frank Warren and the WBO. The WBO give him kind of extra perks because he's got a good relationship with them, same as Bob Arum.
Right.
Basically, Frank Warren's got a relationship with WBO like Bob Arum has. It's always going to be his fights with the WBO titles. They always get the first shot. They'll always be pushed up the rankings. And there's a lot of, give them a brown envelope and you'll get your own way. So, boxing does have its corruption.
Okay, well there you go. Yeah, I was just curious about it. And of course, I agree with everything you said. Boxing has its corruption, but I was just saying I don't like it when the media, the mainstream sports media, starts stacking on boxing, because every sport is dirty if you think about it. Now, I wanted to bring up the subject of Manny Pacquiao. This guy at 39 is still talking about boxing. Same thing with Floyd Mayweather. I thought they were all news. I didn't want to talk about him anymore. But the one that interests me more is Manny Pacquiao. I mean, he's talking about coming back. He's 39 years old. Mike, what do you think about that? Do you think he's still got something left, or after the Jeff Horn fight, is he done?
I wouldn't want to see him come back. I mean, when I saw him fight Jeff Horn, the first round, I thought to myself, okay, he's, age caught up to him. Before, when he was fighting at welterweight, years ago, I mean, he looked so magnificent, and it looked like he was untouchable. And now he can't move as well. His reflexes aren't the same anymore. His speed kind of went down. And I know Jeff Horn is a rugged fighter. He's bigger than Manny Pacquiao. Unless Pacquiao moves down in weight and starts fighting smaller guys. But I think I would still watch him fight Terrence Crawford. I think could make some type of money, and I think they would be interested in that fight. But if I would pick, I'd rather see Pacquiao retire.
Now here's another follow-up question for that then, because you think he looked done against Horn. Do you think it was a question of Horn making Pacquiao look sloppy with the holding and the inside fighting, or is Pacquiao really completely shot?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. I noticed really him slipping after he fought Jesse Vargas. And no disrespect to Jesse Vargas, and Pacquiao won that fight, comfortably, but he just doesn't, have that explosiveness he had before when he used to fight Margarito, and he used to, even to me, he started slowing down when I saw him fight Shane Mosley, mm-hmm. And we're talking years back, but he was still on top of his game, but with Jeff Horn, with his rugged style and sloppiness and so forth, an older Pacquiao would have been able to, a younger Pacquiao would have been able to, duck and dive better. He would have been able to hit him with cleaner shots. He would have been able to avoid a lot of those, rugged punches. Mm-hmm. And I still thought he won the fight, but it was pretty evident after watching that fight that I said, I think I think the time of him fighting welterweights is over.
Now, you mentioned that you didn't think he looked all that good against Vargas. I thought I thought that was more of a Vargas coming in determined, especially now that you look at it in hindsight. Vargas was able to beat Saddam Ali, and that win looks better now after what Ali did to Cotto. So, like you said, I think it was a combination of Jeff Horn's tactics, but at the same time.
Yeah, and I thought Tim Bradley looked a little bit better against Vargas than Manny Pacquiao did up until he got hit with that big punch in the 12th round. Mm-hmm, Yeah, like I said, I had Pacquiao winning that Vargas fight comfortably, but I mean, he was getting hit with a lot of right hands by Jesse Vargas, and not to show disrespect to Jesse Vargas, because I think he's a credible welterweight fighter, but just the versions of Pacquiao we've seen and we were accustomed to seeing years back, I think he would have handled Jesse Vargas a lot cleaner than what we saw in November, especially as a guy like Jeff Horn as well.
That's a good point. You're right. I had forgotten about Timothy Bradley handling Jesse Vargas as well. I want to read a couple of the comments in the chat room. They're arguing about Mikey Garcia and whether he can be a star. Juan Pacheco says he doesn't sell. Broner was the guy putting butts in the seat. Tony G says, cut Pacquiao some slack. He had a great career. I mean, we're not criticizing him. We're just saying, late in his career, he's not looking all that great. I think it's time to, put him out to pasture. Sanctus Deus Cruor says, I made the point, bro. When I said Mexican fan base, obviously it means when they buy his fights. That's not in Mexico. And then Juan Pacheco says, he ain't got no personality either. Dude smart and shit, but would you want to party and do coke with him? Shit, dude wants to be a cop. Yeah, that's true. I mean, would you want to party with Mikey Garcia? I'd like to party with Robert Garcia, his brother, and Brandon Rios. Those two look like they know how to have fun. Mikey Garcia, it seems like he's still...
I would be scared to party with Brandon Rios. He looked like a guy that would make me take 10 tequila shots in 5 minutes.
Well, if you can't handle the heat, get out of there.
He'd take 10 tequila shots and he'd make you do 12 rounds of sparring with him after.
Oh my god.
Hey man,
that's what Rios would do.
Absolutely.
Oh, speaking of Rios, he's gonna fight Danny Garcia, and obviously the matchup doesn't interest me, but it's just indicative. It's a clear example of the PBC, what they're doing and how they handle Danny Garcia. I mean, this is a guy that fought. Think about it. He fought Nate Campbell when Garcia was a prospect. He fought him, right? Then he took on the dangerous Kendall Holt. He beat Morales twice. He beat Amir Khan. He beat Matias. He beat Judah. And then, boom, Rod Salka, Samuel Vargas. Yeah, sure, he did fight Peterson, and eventually he fought Keith Thurman. But that was in between fights guys that he shouldn't be taking on. And now he's taking on Brandon Rios. I mean, anybody want to tell me what's going on with the PBC?
This is... Go ahead, Cam.
Yeah, sorry, I was about to say, well, let's be honest. I mean, you think that Mauricio Herrera fight basically, really, in some way, put an end to Garcia's kind of rise. Because Garcia was touted as, potential pound-for-pound star, maybe a pay-per-view star, after, when he's beaten Matisse and all that. He fought on Mayweather Canelo's undercard. Supposed to be, a routine victory, beat him, let's be honest. I don't think anybody thought Garcia won that fight. Not anybody that I know, anyway. But since then, I mean, like you said, he fought Solka. I mean, he fought, Guerrero, Malignaggi, lost to Furman. I mean, he's fighting Rios.
His best win is Lucas Matisse.
Oh, yeah, by far. Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're thinking back to Matisse at that time, he just blew out Lamont Peterson. Matisse was kind of the boogeyman at 140 then. So, yeah, 100%. But Garcia, I mean, I still rate Garcia as a fighter. I do like Danny as a fighter. I think he should be right in the mix. I mean, he should have fought Porter, let's be fair. I mean, that was a fight to make. WBC ordered it. They should have made that fight. But to me, Garcia just seems to me like he's... I think it's obvious. I feel like him and his dad feel like his legacy is cemented, really, at this point. So they're just going to try and make as much money as they can. I mean, Rios, yeah. I mean, I just want to see Rios turn up in shape. I thought he looked good in his last fight. I just want to see Rios turn up in shape, and hopefully it's not a 2-round blowout because, like the Bradley fight. Because, Garcia, it'd be good to see Garcia in a kind of a proper fight in his first fight back rather than just go in there and destroy Brandon Rios. You know what I mean? So hopefully Rios actually comes to something, gets him in shape. He's, I mean, the only fight I want to see Brandon Rios in is Victor Ortiz. That's the only fight they should be fighting. He should be fighting Victor Ortiz, and Danny Garcia should be fighting somebody in the top 15.
You're absolutely right. He should be fighting somebody better than Brandon Rios, but that's Danny Garcia, man. He's always been one of the most pampered guys by the PBC, and like you said, I like watching him fight. I think he's an entertaining fighter. Like for example, the Herrera fight. He looked bad in it, but that's because Herrera is a very slick, wily... I mean, not slick, but, he's a wily guy. He knows how to move, and he frustrated Garcia. But when Garcia takes on a guy that's going to stand in front of him and allow him to throw those hooks against them, he's an entertaining fighter. And people, and I know people are going to disagree with me here, but people shit on him all the time, and especially for the Keith Thurman fight. I actually think he did pretty well against Thurman. Did he do as good as Porter did against Thurman? No. But he did pretty well. He's a solid guy. Definitely a top welterweight. I want to see him fight, but come on, Brandon Rios. I mean, does he really need this fight? This is a tune-up fight. Does he really need this fight? I mean, it's not like he got plastered by Keith Thurman, so why is he taking on Brandon Rios of all guys?
This fight is a perfect indicative of what PBC is and has been. I don't think a lot of people would have been too upset if if Danny Garcia came back from the Keith Thurman fight in they fought in March, if he would have came back in July and August and fought Brandon Rios for a tune-up, but here he is coming from an 11-month layoff, and his next fight is Brandon Rios. I mean, it would have made so much more sense to at least have him fight, Sean Porter or even Adrian Broner. I mean, that would even sell better. But, put Brandon Rios in with Omar Figueroa instead of fighting Garcia. Garcia versus, Broner, Rios versus Figueroa, and we're getting something completely different.
Mm-hmm. And listen, go ahead.
It's frustrating.
Listen, I understand about Figueroa against Rios because stylistically that would be a good fight. But now that you mentioned Figueroa, I think he proved against Robert Guerrero that he's ready to step up to another level. I think he should be tested a little more. And a guy like Brandon Rios, who's gonna be there to be hit. I already know Figueroa, who's fresher and who has a very good chin, has an advantage over Brandon Rios, who has taken too many shots in his career. I want to see Figueroa take on another guy, somebody else, man, because, I don't know, Rios, it would make for a fun fight. You're right about that, and that's, you should be a matchmaker because that's a great fight. But Figueroa should be fighting somebody else, man. Now, when it comes to Danny...
I'd rather see Danny Garcia.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd rather... I wouldn't... And, looking at the fights that they've got up now, I wouldn't have minded seeing... I would have rather seen Danny Garcia fight Andre Byrd. I think Andre Berto would have been a much better comeback fight for Garcia than Rios, and Berto is probably still got something a lot more to give than Rios at this point. Even though Berto is not going to be a world champion, he's not world level, I think it'd still be a good I think he'd give Garcia a good run after 11 months layoff.
That's true. But Berto, I mean, didn't he look shot to you against Porter, or was that just a question of Porter making him look bad?
I think it was just a bit of both. I mean, Porter's a handful for anybody, and Berto's just been on. I mean, he's been on the slide for a little while. I mean, the only reason Berto got a shot really was because he beat.
Ortiz.
I mean, Berto's in my opinion, at welterweight you've got the elite fighters. You've got Thurman, Spence, Porter, Garcia. You've got all these guys, and then you've got the level below where you can probably put sort of Berto, Rios, obviously you could have had Guerrero before he retired, and you could have just made a load of fights with him, like Victor Ortiz. Just match all them guys together and they'll be exciting fights. Just let the top guys get on with what they're doing, and just let those kind of B-level guys, B-level's kind of, the I'm on about, the lower below, and just let them fight.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Why haven't we seen Ortiz and Rios?
Exactly. That's the only fight that makes sense for both of them.
It is, man. It should have happened a long time ago.
The only good thing about Rios versus Garcia is if Angel Garcia goes to Rios, because that'd be quite good at a press conference. That's about the only exciting thing about it.
Yeah, that would be the exciting thing right there, man. But other than that, listen, I'm looking at the welterweight rankings right now. Jesse Vargas rated 10. Pacquiao's still in there at number 9. Jeff Horn at number 8. Matias, I guess they're ranking him because of his good performance against Emmanuel Taylor. Lamont Peterson, number 6. And then you got the top 5, which you mentioned there, Cameron. Danny Garcia, number 5. Kell Brook, number 4. Porter, number 3. Spence, 2. And Thurman, number 1. Now, I think Kell Brook deserves... I don't know. I mean, do you guys agree with Garcia below Kell Brook?
Yeah, I mean, Kell Brooks, no. I mean, he should be above... No, I do, because Kell Brooks got a win over Porter. I mean, what's Danny Garcia's best win at 47?
Lamont Peterson, which I don't even think he won that fight.
Okay, there you go.
Exactly. So Kell Brooks got a better... I mean, Kell Brooks not even at 147 anymore, but Kell Brooks got a better single win than Garcia has at 147.
Yeah, that's true. But then again, that's going on 3 years now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, Kell Brooks is a former world champion. Yeah. But that's a tough one. It doesn't really matter because Brooks up to 54 now, isn't he? So realistically, Garcia isn't below him.
Now, hold on a second here. I'm gonna get King Butch on this, but I got a question regarding Garcia because he is, like I said, part of the PBC plan, right? Hypothetical question. If he would have stayed with Golden Boy or stayed with Showtime or whatever, how different would his career have looked?
Who's that? Two King Butcher?
No, I'm just asking anybody. Like, anybody want to jump in?
Is that Danny Garcia you're talking about, yeah?
Yeah.
If he would have stayed, if he didn't stay at Showtime, where would his career be?
If he would have stayed with Golden Boy instead of going over to the PBC.
Oh, okay. I don't think it would have been much different in my opinion. I mean, they were talking about doing Garcia Pacquiao at one point, when they Garcia Mayweather as well. If he was with Golden Boy, neither of those fights would have even been talked about in my opinion. So, I mean, obviously it didn't happen, but I feel like he had more options with Heyman than he did with De La Hoya.
Well, listen. On the one hand, he is the PBC does have a lot of top guys in their roster. On the other hand, Danny Garcia is just fighting 2 times a year. And now here's the question. Here's the thing. A lot of people like to say that fighters are in it for their legacy. They'll always talk about, well, the legacy. And at the end of the day, it's about the money. Okay? Because no fighter is going to fight for free. I know a lot of guys... I remember an interview with Larry Holmes a couple of years ago, and they said, they asked him, what do you miss the most about boxing? He says, the money. He says, Don King always used to tell me, when you do interviews, say that the thing you're fighting for is legacy. But nobody wants to fight for free. And I understand Danny Garcia's position where, he wants to get paid. He's not going to be boxing forever. He's not going to be getting $1 million paydays forever. So I might as well maximize what he's doing right now. On the other hand, yes, it's true they want to get paid, but deep down inside, they do care about the legacy. So when you look at Danny Garcia, just a question for let's say, who should I ask? Just a question. Well, I'll ask Lopez. Yeah, Lopez. First of all, how are you, man?
I'm good. I just wanted to talk about the welterweights. I'm trying to sew up some outfits, man.
Well, let me ask you a question because we're talking about money here. Is Danny Garcia, who's taking on Brandon Rios, who hasn't done anything to deserve a fight of that magnitude, is Danny Garcia gonna end up regretting not having more quality fights during his prime?
Sorry.
No.
Sorry, hang on, man. I need to go, fellas. So
okay.
I hope you have a Christmas and enjoy yourselves, and I'll speak to you when we're back for the next one sometime.
All right, Cameron. Thanks a lot for being here, and Merry Christmas to you as well. And we do have your link of your Twitter on the description, so check out Cameron Gillon's work and check out his tweets. Very informative and entertaining. So thanks, Cameron. Thanks for joining us, man.
No problem. Merry Christmas. Take it easy.
Merry Christmas, man. All right, so Lopez, do you think Danny Garcia, with his career stalling a little bit now, does he just care about the money, or is he going to end up regretting the way his career has gone?
I don't think he's going to regret the legacy part because he's been whooped before. Like, he knows in his heart, like, he's been whooped a few times, and who wants to care about taking more whoopings? Like, he's showing you right now who he is. I think a person's going to be who they are. So 5 years from now, he's going to look back and say, them was some tough fights. I probably wouldn't have won any. I got paid the way I was. I never considered him a player at welterweight. So I kind of don't care what he's doing. I only care because he's taking up TV dates. And I don't care to see him anymore unless it's like, he gets that big fight and they just find out, well, like we already know, he's really not on that level.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, I'll disagree there. I think Danny Garcia is entertaining, and I do think at least the fact that he's been able to compete against the top guys means that he does deserve to be in there. But he's never, I don't think he's ever going to be the best in the division. With Keith Thurman and Errol Spence there, I don't see that happening. But he does have the chance to make some interesting fights, to give him some interesting fights, some tough matchups. And he is making money, man, which is, at the end of the day, for most fighters, the most important thing. I don't know. I mean, Michael, do you agree with that?
Yeah, honestly, I think he's perfectly content with how his career is going and how it has going, how it's gone so far.
Right.
I mean, it shows, on his activity, after the Thurman fight. I mean, he could have came back sooner. You know, maybe his team wanted to, you know, take a break after that Thurman fight, you know. But I mean, just look at what Angel Garcia said in that one interview where he said that, you know, why fight top guys, you know, for, you know, whatever, when you can fight, you know, you can get paid for fighting lower level guys. You know, it's you know, I don't think Danny Garcia has the exact same mentality as his father.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I mean, he's getting paid. He's getting the checks. You know, he's got some, you know, he's got a decent resume. So I don't think he, you know, I honestly don't think he'll regret anything.
Well, let's go to the
In the end, as long
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, as long as he's getting paid still, I think he's fine.
Yeah, I think that's all he cares about, getting paid. Let's go to the chat room here and see what people are saying. So Precise Puncher, shout out to Precise. I forgot to give him a shout out when he was there. Garcia had better wins at 140 than Crawford. Yeah, at this point, Crawford hasn't done anything at the welterweight. Don't know.
I think he said at 140. Better wins at 140.
Oh, at 140. Yeah, you're right. He's at 140. I wouldn't disagree with that, man. Dono says Crawford is a great fighter, but I can't warm to his style. Hey, it's not for everybody, you know. Phony says, I don't get what people see in Khan. Well, you know, he's a quick-handed boxer and he's not exactly a boring guy to watch, so I understand where the appeal comes from. Nicola Ferrari says, yeah, but taking the Spence fight at 147, he's talking about Brook, after a surgery was even worse than facing Triple G at a comfortable weight. That's the other thing. I mean, I gotta give a lot of credit for Brook to taking that fight, going up to middleweight and trying to outdo Amir Khan by taking on Triple G. I mean, that was a ballsy move. At this point, though, in hindsight, was it a bad move? I mean, how do we know the Triple G fight ruined him?
You know, all I know is the other side of his face got broke in the next fight. So,
but that's the thing.
If everything is everything, like I said, Earl Spence has another side of his retina in a trophy case. So, I'm not sure, man. Like, he's, you know, his boxing just gonna play out the way it is, man. You gotta. It's a short window. It's not open long.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these guys, if they get it, I don't know what Kell Brook made. I'm guessing, I'm hearing numbers that was thrown out. I really don't care, like 3 to 5 million and plus some back end potentially. Shit, you don't turn anything like that down when you're not getting, you know, you're not getting that on the regular. I wouldn't turn it down either.
Right. Yeah, it's in the chat room. Tony G is saying that the fight made Kell rich. I mean, he's not giving us a number, but I mean, if anybody's in the chat room, can you give us a number? I mean, do you know how much Kell Brook made? And if so, if it's a big number.
I remember hearing like 3 and 5 million for both dudes, like something in between that. So
yeah, well, listen, the only other way he's gonna get that type of payday is if he takes on an Amir Khan. Well, Tony G is saying that he got about 5 million for the Triple G fight plus a pay-per-view percentage as well. That's pretty good money, man. 5 million, and I think that 5 million euros? I mean, 5 million pounds. If so, man, that's a sweet deal right there. Butcho, what do you think about that, man?
About what?
About Kell Brook making 5 million against Triple G. That was a smart move in a way, right? Financially.
Yeah, of course, I would have done it.
But now here's my question: if Brook now is, let's say, I don't know if he's finished. All I know is he's got his face busted 2 times in a row. I think at this point he deserves a tune-up fight against a guy that's not a big puncher. First of all, number one, he should move up to junior middleweight, because welterweight, he can't make that without draining himself. Move up to junior middleweight, take on a guy like Jan Zavik or somebody who's not a big, huge puncher, and let's see what he has left. Let's see if he can.
Saddam Ali.
No, I think that's too risky a fight, man. I think maybe as a second fight, but as a first fight, I think he deserves to take on somebody that he's almost certain to win against, because he took a big risk against Triple G, and then he took a big risk by going back to welterweight and taking on one of the most dangerous guys, Earl Spence. But I want to see how he can do a 154 against a guy that's below average.
Can I throw something out there with James DeGale just trying to do that? Like, after he took a career-ending beating, I guess, career-changing beating.
What did he say?
He tried this. What's that?
What did he? You said he said something.
No, James DeGale, when he tried to do the same thing, get that easy fight, that fight that you know you're gonna win. He picked like a Truex.
Uh-huh.
At this level, upsets do happen. I'm not saying it's all the time, but when you're near the end of your rope, and I don't know who was more done, Brooke or DeGale, but I don't think he can. I kind of agree with Bujo. You need to go for a title, because if you lose to a Zavik, what do? Call for a Zavik rematch? No, you can't do. You can only do that when you have a title. Like James DeGale at least had a title. And he's like, yo, I can't believe he took my belt. Got to get my belt back. From Zavik, you can't get anything back except your manhood and the time you're wasting.
Yeah.
You can't do it. I think he has to take something.
Yeah, it's just a bad. He put himself in a bad situation, and I don't know. Call it karma, call it whatever you want to call it, but this is what happens in boxing. You think you got an easy way out? Nope. It's actually, and we saw that a little bit with Cotto against Saddam Ali and Bernard Hopkins against James Smith. They think it's gonna be an easy fight. They're talking about a swan song and about a celebration, a retirement party. That retirement party can turn out into a retirement nightmare. And a similar thing happened to DeGale, although it wasn't a retirement fight. But, like you said, it's a lose-lose situation. You lose to a guy you're not supposed to. What do you do in the rematch? I mean, it just looks bad, man. It just looks completely disgusting. Want to see what people are saying in the chat room. Phony says, Brook needs to take a fight with a non-puncher. Exactly, he's sharing my sentiment. White Tony says, titanium plates solve the problem. He can do well now at 154, he's 31, and with Ingle Gym, meaning sports science buffins who got BJS in shape, his best is yet to come. Sanctus Deus Cror says, Hearn saw the threat in Errol, took the Triple G fight, and Big Noni before Kel risks it all versus Spence, Kel should have stayed at 147. I mean, I don't know, man. He tried to go for glory against Gennady Golovkin.
I think he was avoiding Spence in his own right. He was like, yo, I need a money fight before I take this one. And I mean, I can blame him, but at the same time, I can't blame him. Like, it wasn't a big... It turned out to be a bigger fight after he took the Golovkin fight. So that, that quick money grab worked in his favor. Like, I think they put like 40,000 people. Was it something of that nature?
Yeah, I think it was a big fight, right? Michael, do you know if it
Spence and Brook, yeah. So if you don't fight Golovkin, that don't happen.
Yeah, that's a good point. Michael, what do you think about Brook? I mean, was it a mistake in hindsight?
No. I mean, it was one fight. It wasn't like he was getting beat up before when he was fighting other guys. He made himself look very credible against Triple G. I mean, I don't think a lot of people expected him to be that competitive at first with him up until the 5th round when he started getting beaten down. And against the Errol Spence fight, I had him a little bit comfortably ahead after 6 rounds. It wasn't until Errol Spence decided to turn it up and started figuring out Kell Brook finally, and just took the fight to him. So he needs to move up. I mean, even in the fight against Triple G, he didn't look that much smaller than Golovkin. I mean, I was surprised at how well he filled in at middleweight. Now I don't think he should be fighting at middleweight, but I mean, it just goes to show you that it was pretty much his time to move up to 154.
Yeah,
you know what? Maybe the mistake for Brook was to go to 160 and then go all the way back to 147. He should have relinquished that IBF welterweight title and just move after the Golovkin fight, move to 154.
That's a good point, man. I think that going.
Because come on, he was built. I mean, he put on muscle. This reminded me of Roy Jones when he moved up to fight John Ruiz. Then he goes all the way back to light heavyweight, and his body looked like kind of weird. I'm not saying Kell Brook's body looked weird at all, but I don't think that move is gonna do anything good to your body,
But I gotta repeat what the guy said in the comment with Ingle. That is one thing that they do, sports science. They don't just do the nutritional. They're really down to a T. You'll even see it in some of Brooks. What do you call it? Not behind the gloves they got over there, but there's some things they had over there on Sky Sports. And everything he do is down to a T, down to an ounce, and it's just like, if anybody's gonna get you in shape,
I agree.
Whichever way it is, it's gonna be a team like that.
But I'm saying losing 13 pounds of muscle. I mean, I don't care how good your trainers inside. You have all this, like, how do you call them?
He looked good. He made it to the fight looking good. Both men looked ready for war at 147, and I think they gave that. I just think his stamina wasn't what was going. His power was there. His face just went. Nothing else went except his face.
His mind, I guess.
Well, let me just say this.
Yeah, that's another.
He kind of looked
my
like a
mind would go
broken
too if
man.
you break my face. I think he's gonna be like DeGale, because DeGale looked like a scared child at times when he was getting hit. I think that's gonna happen to Brook too.
I think Triple G kind of destroyed him mentally, especially after he broke his retina. Like, Will Brook probably didn't want to, like, it's still in the back of your head. Probably like, oh, what if, my retina fucks up again or something. He was getting kind of beat by Spence at the end there. So, if he hadn't fought Triple G, I don't think he would have quit like that. I'm just assuming, it's an assumption here, but I don't know.
Well, let me just say something here about that, because it's hard to know exactly if Brook was ruined by Triple G. But I will say this: if you look at the film study that we did for the upcoming Spence versus Peterson fight, you'll see that when we focus on Spence's fight against Kell Brook, Spence was banging him to the body, man. He was hitting him with some hellacious shots from both sides of the body, both to the right and to the left. So I think that also played a factor in it. I don't think it was just the eye and the mental aspect, because like Michael said, he did have Brook ahead by a slight margin, and I thought he was boxing pretty well against Spence, but just Spence, he's relentless.
Yeah, but he was suffering. Yeah, but he.
Yeah, I get BDA point. I get that point. You mentioned the complete, and it ties into what he did. If you look at Pacquiao and Algieri. Pacquiao hasn't been known as this complete guy that cuts off the ring and stay on you. He's not known for that. He's known as a swarmer. He couldn't finish Algieri completely.
Mm-hmm.
But with Spence, it was like Algieri had no choice. And I think that's what Kell Brook felt like. Yo, if he was a less complete fighter, less punches in certain places, I'd stick this out. But he's gonna keep hit me with a jab, going low, coming back up high, and gonna stay on top of me. He could have continued versus a lesser fighter, but his mind said, "Yo, my eye's done, and this guy ain't stopping."
That's a big tribute to Errol Spence, though, and I think a lot of fighters now they're not as disciplined to continue going to the body. I mean, I see some fighters, they'll go to the body for like a round or two, and I guess it tells them that, like, hey, these guys aren't getting as badly hurt as I thought it would if I went to the body. So they quit, and then they go to the head. I mean, I've been following Errol Spence for a long time, and since his early times when he was fighting on FS1 and Showbox, as a prospect, this guy already knew he was going to the body all the time, and it showed. It broke down because like they said, you chop a tree down long enough, and down it goes. And I think after a while, Kell Brook just couldn't handle that body punching. And once you go down to the body, as many times like that, you kind of not forget to defend your face, but I mean, it opens your face up a little bit more, because now you're worried about those body punches that fighters don't like, getting hit. I mean, look at Kovalev again, the second fight against Andre Ward. I know a lot of those punches that Andre Ward at the end were were low blows, but I mean, throughout the fight he was still hitting them with solid body punches, and after a while Kovalev didn't want any more of it.
Now, Precise Puncher in the comments in the chat, he's saying Spence holds and hits American slick boxing. Nobody's ever really said that Errol Spence was a slick guy. I mean, he does hold and hit, as I showed in the fight breakdown. He does hold that behind the head and something, but for the most part, it's clean body punching that's getting the job done. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know, I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Now, do you guys, let me ask you this to Lopez. Lopez, do you think Errol Spence has a good chin? I mean, has he proven that he has one?
Yeah, I think Showtime jumped the gun so much on that chin. Errol Spence will fall off balance with Kell Brook, and I can't remember the round, but he's like, "Oh my God, he's hurt," and 3 seconds later, Kell Brook was on the ropes taking potentially one of the worst beatings not potentially, one of the worst beatings he took in his career, and it was like middle rounds, and I think it's there, man. Kell Brook's a good puncher, and he was, he targeted the right spots whenever Spence made a mistake, and it's not often that he does because his hands stay high a lot. Kell Brook found it, and he's supposed to because he's a damn good fighter himself. We knew that going in. I don't have the questions about the chin. I mean, I'm just like, yo, no. Too strong of a fighter, and understand your power. Every time he hits you, you're gonna have to get this job done freshly. If you are talking about his chin, because by the third or fourth round, he's taking something out of every opponent he fought. So your power is not even the same. When you think about the ninth round, no, the fourth round you're changed with this guy. So if it is, it is. But hey, your attributes gonna have to show that early.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. Like he did take some big right hands against Kell Brook, man. He took some flush right hands, and what I like about Errol Spence is his composure, because if you're gonna be an inside fighter or a come forward fighter, you're gonna get hit, and he knows this, and he seems mentally prepared. I mean, there was one spot in the Kell Brook fight where he got hit with a right hand, a counter right hand, and he came right back with a counter left of his own that pushed Brook back. I mean,
that was beautiful. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I'm saying is, this is a guy who he's showing special qualities in there, and Precise Puncher is saying that he's a dirty fighter, but come on, I mean, let's be real about it. He's not an Andrew Ward type fighter.
Errol Spence?
Yeah.
No, he's not a dirty fighter.
I mean, he can be dirty. He does hold behind the head a lot, but he's not an Andrew Ward type dirty. You know what I mean? Like clinching.
I guess if a person's like on the inside and they feeling bullied, he'll go ahead and bully them the rest of the way. Like that's what I mean. I could see that, but if you're talking about like impactful elbows to your face or impactful low blows, nah.
Right. To me, dirty is what Orlando Salido did to Lomachenko when they fought. I mean, all those low blows. I mean, that was just. I mean, that's.
You would have to say Lomachenko was dirty because he held the head down. I don't think it's dirty. It's just a tactic. But when you start hitting somebody and making impact, no, hell no. That's dirty. That's what dirty is. I understand. You place a forearm in somebody's chest, you better do it or they're gonna do it to you. You put a shoulder in somebody's chest, you better do it or it's gonna get done to you. It's jockeying for position on the inside, but I mean, as long as you're not.
That's where the ref has to step in. There's no referees anymore. Let's be honest. There's no referees, and there's a reason why some referees allow some certain things, because sometimes there's an agenda. Like with Floyd, let's be honest. They never called anything on Floyd, man. He was dirty as fuck, and for so many fights, the refs weren't doing shit.
That's true. Yeah. Like I think the only
what
time.
The fuck? Where's the ref? We're talking about like, oh yeah, well he's gonna give me low, I'm gonna hit him low. Like it's not even supposed to be happening. That's not even supposed to happen. There's supposed to be a fucking ref. There's fucking rules.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, it's who said that in the chat? Somebody said it's a spectrum. Yeah, Luis Catorce said dirty is a spectrum. I agree, man. It's like, listen, one guy that, like, for example, low place hates is Bernard Hopkins, because Bernard Hopkins, when things didn't go his way, he resorted. Listen, he did it all: headbutting, holding behind the head, hitting you low, pretending that he was hit low. I mean, I love Bernard Hopkins. He's one of my favorite fighters, but I gotta call it the way I see it. He was a dirty fighter. Andrew Ward's a dirty fighter. Felix Valera, who took on Barrera a couple of weeks ago, that's a dirty fighter. Errol Spence, he does dirty things, like wily things, but I wouldn't call him all out dirty. Let's put it this way: his dirty tactics are not what are winning him the fight. It's his body punching.
Yes. Yeah, like I could see your point with talking about Bernard Hopkins, being a dirty fighter, but that's just not Errol Spence, though. He that style that Bernard Hopkins did for years. I mean, that's what won him a lot of fights is by fighting dirty like that.
It's a style. It's a style that you should be. If you're a referee and you know him from the jump of when he's doing it should be a hard warning. Like 10 years into doing that, it's just gonna be like, nah, I ain't having that shit tonight. Like this dude trained 8 weeks, probably 12, probably more, who knows? And and the first thing you want to do is show them, oh, I'm going to lead with the head, so you got something else to block. Nah, fuck you. You know, not tonight. But I mean, he got away with it. I don't get it. Other fighters get it. Miguel Vasquez, the way he fought Shafikov, the way he was trying to fight Josh Kelly the other day. Nah, man, I'm not cool with that, man.
I like a little bit of it. I like a little bit, or you know what I like? I like it when it's two dirty guys going at it, like when Andrew Golada took on John Ruiz. That's a fight. If it's two guys like that, it's okay. I enjoy it because they're gonna be dirty either way. But
You're joking, right?
no, I'm not joking. I do like it when it's a nice sloppy. Listen,
Okay.
I like my fights sometimes like my women, dirty, sloppy, and just cheap. That's what I like. Now somebody's making a good comment in the.
That's how you box, man.
Well, listen, Precise made a good point. He says, slapping is a dirty tactic thought in American gyms. It's meant to bust eardrums. I got hit one time. This guy was slap hitting me with the back, with the open hand, with the palm. He hit me with the palm. It hurt more than any type of punch I've ever taken inside that fucking sparring ring, man. So yeah, slapping, that's another dirty tactic that a lot of guys don't look at. But then again, when I watch amateur fights here in Quebec, I see the referees.
Floyd was known to do that a lot too. When he would throw not overhand right hands, but when he was there to it was mainly to pierce the defense off his fighters. So he would, if fighters would try to do a peekaboo style and just try not to get hit, he would use his right hand to slap behind the glove.
Yeah, I remember against Cotto, for example.
Yes, yes, with Cotto.
But actually, I think that's illegal. I didn't see him slapping too much. I'll have to rewatch that fight.
Those was right hooks. He turned, instead of throwing straight right hand, he started looping the hook around the glove, because Cotto in his own right, I wouldn't say took the right hand away, but he made him go to more things. And for Cotto, all you got to do is when somebody's throwing that punch is notice it's a hook and pull your hand back more around your head and turn your shoulder a bit. So it's easy to do, but I don't know, man. Some people, I guess you get tired. I would love somebody to throw wide shots then straight shots at me. I don't give a damn what they trying to bust. I got my hands up.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. If you're throwing hooks around the guard, there's nothing illegal there. But if I don't know. I'd have to watch. There were some slow motion replays in the Miguel Cotto versus Mayweather fight, so I'd have to see if it was really slapping. I do know that sometimes Mayweather would slap with his shots to the body, but I guess that's not as bad as on top of the head. Now we're running out of time here, but before we do end this, we still got a little time left. And Lopez, because I didn't get a chance to talk with you about the Billy Joe Saunders Lemieux fight. After the fight, first of all, you got the pick right. You said Billy Joe Saunders was gonna school Lemieux, and a lot of people were split on it. Some people didn't want to commit, but you picked it. Now here's my question: after the fight, David Lemieux refused to give Billy Joe Saunders any type of credit. And he said, well, it's not about anything he did, it's about what I failed to do. Is this why David Lemieux hasn't improved since the Triple G fight? Because he just refuses to acknowledge that there's something wrong with his style?
David Lemieux, man, I just don't even have to see him again. Every level, he's lost on every level. And it's not going to get better. Maybe it could. Maybe you learn how to cut off the ring. He's not the slow feet. He don't have super slow feet. But once he gets punched, I can't say that this man didn't have a game plan to cut off the ring in the beginning. I don't know. I wasn't in the camp. But people don't like when you say, when it doesn't fit the fighter. Billy Joe Saunders is the fighter I'm going to say this about. Everybody got a game plan until they get hit. People are like, no, anybody can take Billy Joe Saunders' shot. That only applies to Tyson. No, that applies to the person you're hitting too. How soft is he? How mentally quick? How quick can you mentally break him? David Lemieux was mentally broken within a round or so. Billy Joe Saunders' jab movement was like, yo, you're not catching up with him tonight. Call it a night. Next thing you know, Billy Joe Saunders is doing the looking out the ring. It's just easy, man. He was going to be easy work from the start. He was easy work when he got in there. And the next person that watched the film and wants to implement what Billy Joe Saunders done, if they're capable, he's going to be easy work again.
Yeah, I agree, man. Listen, Tony G in the chat, he put it best. He said Lemieux looked like a headless chicken in there. It's true, man. I mean, listen, I want to see Lemieux fight again because against the right opponent, he's gonna look entertaining. I know King Bucho mentioned Lemieux against what's his name, Murata. That would be a good fight because he wouldn't have to cut the ring off against Murata. But against the top 5 guys in the division, I think he's just outclassed. I think he would be. I think Daniel Jacobs would beat him. I think Golovkin again would beat him. I think Canelo. I think maybe even Charlo, who's a little unproven. I mean, Michael, what do you think?
About which point?
About Lemieux just not being able to compete against the top 5 guys in the division.
No, he absolutely he will get schooled by Jacobs. He gets schooled by Canelo. He's one dimensional, and it kind of proves his point, when he had to revert to excuses to why he lost, to BJ Saunders. I mean, the man, he just looked absolutely lost in there. I mean, he couldn't cut off the ring. He wasn't double jabbing at all to try to get closer to BJ Saunders. And all he did was try to rush in there, and he was getting schooled. I would like to see David Lemieux again. I mean, he's got an entertaining style. I mean, he makes for some good fights. I think the Murata fight would be entertaining to watch. But yeah, for the top 5 guys in middleweight, he get outclassed.
Listen, can we talk about also? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, just real quick.
Maybe I'm harsh when I say don't want to see him again, but I basically mean on that level. If you want to put him in there and let Curtis Stevens get another shot and put that shit on the undercard or bury it on, like with a title saying HBO, not championship boxing, but what, Boxing After Dark or something like that. If you want to put something like that on, okay, maybe. But at this level, man, nobody deserves credit for beating David Lemieux at this point. I'm not saying don't deserve credit, but just Billy Joe Saunders ain't jumping in my pound for pound list for what I just expected him to do, and nobody should do that.
I actually thought it was.
And I don't know, I don't know how expensive it would be for David Lemieux, but I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him next year take like 3 fights and just fight primarily at on ESPN or on undercards of HBO fights. I mean, he's still entertaining to watch with the right style in front of him. It's fun to watch him fight, but against boxers, forget about it.
Yeah, against punchers, well, I guess Golovkin boxes in his own right, but just forget about it damn near anyway with him, man. Somebody called him a headless chicken. I can attest to this. Billy Joe found his head. Found it pretty easy. Found it A-OK. Bust his nose. Like I knew it. I knew that the puncher would turn into the guy who cowers. And the guy that's, he's the mover, he's gonna turn into the puncher. And that's exactly what happened. He was just fucking knocking this dude reckless, man. It's crazy. It's a funny fight.
I like what you said during the fight. You said when they start giving the puncher credit for at least throwing punches, that's when the fight is over, because that's what HBO commentators were doing. At the end, they were like, well, at least David Lemieux is trying. Yeah, that means he's out of ideas, man. But I like David Lemieux. I like him as a fighter because I think he first of all, he's a bona fide puncher. We don't have a lot of those guys in the boxing right now, and he'll fight anybody. But he definitely has to learn how to cut off the ring and how to move the head. If you're not going to move the head, then at least learn how to parry a jab. And I know it's easier said than done when you're fighting top guys, but I mean, it just looked ridiculous, man. So
I'm not saying he's ever going to be elite, but do you think he would be better off maybe if he started training with somebody else other than
Mark Ramsey? Yeah.
Do you think he would be a little bit better off if he were to train with somebody better, or
at this point, Bucho, you want to answer that one?
I mean, why not?
What was the question?
He asked if David Lemieux would be better off with a different trainer now.
That's what I've been saying. I mean, is he gonna completely change? And I mean, he's pretty limited. His boxing IQ is very bad. But
right.
I mean, it can't hurt. Come on.
It can't. Yeah.
No, yeah. I'd say he should go to California or something. Classic. I mean, we talked about this, right? Bucho. That's me.
I wish he already had a trainer.
Was that?
I wish he had already changed the trainer because they would have. It's the fact is this: Mark Ramsey picked to train him over training a later Alvarez last Saturday. That's what he elected to do, and it's only because he brings in more money. But so I kind of wish like he would have already done it.
Yeah.
And now he's likely still not to do it. He knows who he is. Like he knows how to cut the ring off. He knows how to do that. It's just like when you get hit and you like, oh, that's gonna happen again. Like you gotta be. If you're on the front foot, something gotta give. You're probably going to get hit more. David Lemieux just ain't that guy that wants to get hit. You got to give something. Like I don't know no front foot fighter from Spence to Golovkin, Salido, you name them. They get hit, and you gotta have some level of toughness about you. David Lemieux, he lacks that. And, they call him handsome and stuff like that. He rather have that.
Yeah, man, I agree. Listen, even with a different trainer, like Bucho said, I don't think it would completely change his game, but add a couple of wrinkles. Michael said the same thing. Add a couple of wrinkles. At least learn how to parry a jab or how to get hitless. But that's a good point that you made, Lopez.
Cut off the fucking ring. Cut off the fucking ring.
But that's a good point that Lopez made about how it's also, it's not about Saunders running. He was moving a lot, but he was also sticking that shotgun jab in his face, and that makes a difference, man. That makes a guy hesitant to throw or to at least just walk in there. I want to go back to the comment sections here. People are saying the Federal Reserve's U.S. President, Beyonce, is this Fox or boxing? Yeah, because in the chat room they're having a discussion about Russia. Did you start that discussion, by the way, King Buchu?
No.
Now, who started talking about
I don't know,
Russia?
somebody was talking about like Russia is corrupt, something like that. So it's like,
well, you know what?
What is the U.S. like?
This is called the Boxing Debate Arena, but every once in a while we're gonna talk about a little something else, deviate every once in a while, because talking boxing all the time,
Getting out of control.
But no, well, not. What are they saying? NWO, the NWO is nearly in full swing. The NWO is 5G rollout. Everything else being used to distract us from that. 5G. Is he talking about the internet, or is that what White Tony is referring to? Luis Catorce says if he dies, he dies. What the fuck? What the hell is going on in the fucking chat room, man? But well, listen, yeah, with David Lemieux, I'll say this last final thing about Lemieux. Boxing in Quebec, it's the best province when it comes to boxing. The only province, I would say, that has great boxing in Quebec. Boxing in Canada has it's a little below, just a little below British boxing from the UK.
Are you kidding me? A little below?
You're saying a lot? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, come on, man. Listen,
there's a huge gap, man.
A huge gap? I don't know, man. I saw Pascal competing against Carl Froch. I saw Butek competing against...
We can't name all the Quebec boxers that we've had, man. In recent years, and it's like 5, maybe even 4.
But come on, listen. Remember a couple of years ago, Herman and Gojo, Joachim.
What happened to that guy? Okay.
But they at least they won titles and they were competitive against the top.
What is a great boxer? A boxer that lasts also, right?
I know, but I'm not saying that's what I'm saying. They're a level below British boxing because they haven't developed a pound for pound guy, but they developed solid title holders and contenders. Man, come on, it's not like they're complete boxing.
No, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just saying British boxing is way ahead, man. Like,
I will say that
it's a big gap.
The three leaders are the U.S., Mexico, and right now, yeah, I would say maybe England. It used to be Puerto Rico, but now Puerto Rico, I don't know what happened. White Tony is saying Eastern Europe is number 1, number 2 UK.
It's true though.
3. No, come on.
But then again, you're lumping a bunch of countries.
That's right. Yeah, you can't. I mean, Eastern Europe isn't a country.
Precise Punch is saying Adonis was number 1 pound for pound.
No, we're not gonna get back into that. But listen, Canada develops good, solid boxers, man. I'm not gonna stand here and let the good name of Canada be besmirched by people that don't like Canada and that only watch too much South Park, and that's why they hate Canada. It's just not gonna happen. Not gonna allow it. Not in this podcast. You want to talk bad about Mr. BDA, about King Bucho, and about the panelists? That's fine. Go ahead. But you're not gonna talk bad about Canadian boxing. Not gonna happen.
I'm just saying it's not a. There's potential, man.
Shut up. I've made my point, and we're moving on, man.
All right.
I'm kidding about that. Now listen, yeah, Canada, it's if you want to say it's a full level below the UK boxing, whatever. Yeah, it's definitely not better than UK boxing, but
no, it's not.
All right. Anybody else got anything they want to say before we shut off this transmission? Come on, yes or no?
Can't think of it.
Crickets.
Oh, who's
record everything.
all right? So since the year is ending, what's your the fight that you guys are looking forward to that's already made right now in 2018?
Oh, okay, first of all, you brought up a great point that you just reminded me of. Next week is going to be the final show of 2018. That's going to be Saturday the 30th of December. So for the guys, the panelists or regular panelists, and anybody else that wants to come on next episode, I'm going to ask you if you could please come in with a list of the 5 top things you want to see next year in 2018 and the top 5 things you don't want to see. All right, so that's top 5 things you want. It can be a fight, it can be an outside of the ring event, whatever. But 5 things you want to see and 5 things you definitely don't want to see happen in 2018. All right. Now,
yeah, we're gonna vote on the fight that we want to see next year.
Yeah,
we're gonna do like an Illuminati ritual sacrificial thing, you know.
Whoa, I wouldn't go that far.
So that fight can happen, you know. Yeah, we're gonna do some sorcery.
All right, yes. So we're gonna sacrifice. We're gonna do a mock ritual like the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, there's Moloch, and we have a fire, and now you just need a victim.
Would you like to volunteer there, King Butcher? Or?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, you don't think so, huh? See, you always pull out at the last minute, man. That's what I did with my girlfriend last week. I pulled out. Listen. Okay, so your question...
PG-13.
Yeah, Michael, your question was, what's the best thing we want to see for 2018?
No. What's the fight that you guys are looking forward to so far that's already been made in 2018?
Oh, okay. First of all, has there been a fight made for 2018, a big fight, or...
No.
Okay, well, I'll say that...
Joshua Ortiz.
Has that been made?
Probably the best one.
Has that been made? I don't think so. And I have a feeling something will happen. Something always happens.
Listen, I like... in terms of fights that have already been made, I like Errol Spence versus Lamont Peterson. But they just came out with Carl Frampton versus Nonito Donaire. And I know people like to shit on Donaire, but I actually think that's going to be an interesting, entertaining fight, man. Both guys have hand speed. Both guys have power. They're not completely clueless when it comes to ring IQ. I'm looking forward to that right now. How about you?
I'm saying Donaire gets stopped.
Well, Butcher, do you have a fight?
Groves Eubank.
Groves Eubank. Has that been made as well? Oh, yeah, that's
Oh, yeah. No, it's true. That's the best fight so far.
Bortico Gassiev, Groves Eubank, and I think they gave Wilder Ortiz.
Well, Sanctus Deus
Quadras, not Quadras, but Estrada.
Oh yeah. Well, that's another thing. Sanctus Deus Quiros says Wilder Ortiz. Precise Puncher says Runtime versus Vargas. Sanctus Deus Quiros says Donaire by KO. Cover Operative brought up the fight you mentioned, Wrong Visay versus Estrada. I had forgotten about that one. That looks to be a very entertaining fight as well.
Yeah, and let me tell you, they are all trumped by the one they need to make, Stevenson Jack.
Oh yeah, well.
Leave that there.
But has that been official? Though?
Yeah, it's true. Usyk Bradis. That should be the final. That should have been the final.
No, Usyk Bradis is not the final. That is
no. It should have been the final. I think it should have been the final, man.
Bradis is a clown, man. Bradis is horrible in his last fight. That was a horrible fight. He's looked horrible in every fight. That's Andre Ward. He's Andre Ward. He's bad. Like Usyk gonna dominate him. And then he's going to fight, I believe, the Cuban. I believe the Cuban's going to beat Gassiev.
I think Gassiev's going to win that one.
Well, listen,
I think the final's going to be Gassiev.
Either way, that's a better final. Like, I'm telling you, everybody in, what is it, semifinals? Is that what this is?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
You got quarterfinals, semifinals, or just the quarterfinals?
Oh, it is?
No, this is the semifinals.
I thought it was the semifinals.
Well, yeah, everybody in this will whoop the shit out of the guy Usyk's fight. I believe that easily.
Well, Nicola Ferrari said Gassiev versus Dorticos. That's another one that I'm looking forward to a lot. People think I'm retarded, but I think it's a very good fight.
You're a fucking retard!
Yeah, people think I'm retarded, man, but I think that's a very good fight. And did you all see that video of Dorticos knocking out his trainer while they were hitting the mitts?
Then he helped him go down to sleep. Man, that shit was intentional, man. he didn't even have a pad up for the left hook. Like, nah, man.
Why would you?
He hadn't even. That shit was intentional, yo. He laid his ass out because he's a mean motherfucker, man. That's what he is. Tired of working. Tired of working too hard, man.
You know, that crossed my mind when I was seeing the video and I was seeing his trainer. The trainer was practically yelling at him, which is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to yell at your fighter, you know, to motivate him. But you know, the way he was screaming at him, like "Pégale fuerte, pégale duro," and then all of a sudden Dorticos just goes whack, nice short left hook, and the guy got paralyzed. It's almost like he was tased, you know, his whole body went stiff, and then he went down. I was like, God damn, that was a. But yeah, Dorticos versus Gassiev. I mean, Luis Catorce says Gassiev is going to take Dorticos. Well, how about you, Michael? I mean, what's one fight that's been made that you're looking forward to?
Yeah, two fights that I'm looking forward to is the Spence Peterson fight and the super fight card.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Spence Peterson is just like a murder.
I think it's something. I don't know why, man, but I think it's gonna be. I mean, Spence is gonna win, but it's gonna be tough.
I like it because it's it's two inside fighters. I don't know if it's gonna be a blowout. Yeah, go ahead.
Who has made Lamont Peterson easy to beat?
Matisse.
Just Matisse. That's the thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but and even that was like he had the perfect defense up for that shot that got through. His hand was holding the phone.
Mm-hmm.
The shot was just perfect. Like, but I'm going with a Earl Spence, what's his name, Chris Algieri type show.
Whoa!
Like nobody, you can't outbox. You can't be small and think you're gonna outbox. His feet are right on top of you. I don't get it. When you talk about cutting the ring, this guy, it's not really cutting the ring. You just getting shadowed. Like he's 2 feet bouncing, shadowing you wherever you want to go. There's different ways to cut the ring, and he elected to use the, I guess, more aggressive kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
The more physically draining kind of way, but he's able to do it.
Yeah, that's a good nickname for Earl Spence, the Shadow. That's a good nickname for Earl Spence, the Shadow, because he shadows you in that ring, man. It's not like you said, it's not exactly like Golovkin type pressure where he's cutting off the ring perfectly, but hey, he manages to get guys on the ropes, and once he gets them on those ropes, it's body shot time. So yeah, man, let's see, man.
Yeah.
So again, guys,
I would call it a cherry pick, but it's like Porter and all them declining to fight him. Shit, you got to fight somebody, but it's just a body, man. If he doesn't body him, I don't know. I got to look at something. I got to wonder why. They are friends, but the trainer said this, like Derek James, like, nah, they ain't gonna play no factor. Fuck
no,
that.
They're not. Because both guys.
I hope not, because everything tactically tells me he should be able to hit him with the jab. He should be able to bag him up. He should be able to move him off, and then bag him up and then stay on top of him. A lot of guys can bag people up, but then they lose you. Earl Spence can jab you, then stay right there on top of you, and now you're in an uncomfortable position.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Peterson's. I think he got to feel that.
I'll tell you what. If he does have a Chris Algieri type performance against Lamont Peterson, I think you have to give Earl Spence the recognition that he's the best welterweight in the division. I mean, it's just even though he hasn't fought Crawford or Thurman yet, but I mean, besides getting knocked out by a punch that he didn't really see, I mean, not many people have been able to really dominate Lamont Peterson, and Lamont Peterson has been in the ring with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the second best guy that had a good performance against Peterson was Timothy Bradley, because he did have, after during the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds, he started fighting Peterson on the inside, but then his trainer told him, start fucking boxing, and once Bradley started boxing, he boxed pretty well against Peterson. But yeah, anybody else, Amir Khan, Danny Garcia, Victor Ortiz, they have not had an easy time with Lamont Peterson. So if, like you said, if Spence makes a statement that way, worst case scenario, man, I still have him as the 2nd best welterweight, but he and Keith Thurman need to do it in 2018, man.
It has to happen.
Absolutely, that would be one of the best. That would be one of the fights I'm looking forward to the most if it happens. So again, guys, next week, please don't forget, bring in 5 things you want to see for 2018 and 5 things you don't want to see. And in the chat room, if you're not gonna call in, you can put them up on the chat room as well. We'll see them every once in a while. I'll check the chat room and see what people are saying. Well, let's see what people are saying in the chat room now. Indongo beat Ricky Burns. They're talking about Terence Crawford. Crawford is in a different class. Fuck. Felix Diaz had a good fight versus Lamont Peterson. Yeah, that was a good fight. Thurman had such trouble with Porter. Anyway, they're talking about Thurman versus Crawford, I guess. Guys, we gotta go. This was a fun show, as always. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this show. It really helps us out. I want to go back to the chat room and just give a shout out to everybody that was here. Well, first of all, a shout out to everybody that was in the chat. I mean, in the discussion group here. I want to thank Michael, Matias. Michael, you have a Twitter, right? A Twitter account? Oh shit, Michael left. Well, I think Michael has a Twitter account. I'm gonna, worst case scenario, I'll ask Cameron for his information and I'll put it up in the description. Low Plays also has a YouTube channel. That's also in the description of this video. You can check him out. He also has a Twitter. You tweet a lot, don't you, Low Plays? I mean, you're a constant, what's the word I'm looking for? Consistent tweeter, right? I guess he's eating green beans right now or something. But yeah, check out Low Place's Twitter.
I actually am, man. I'm eating I just came back and heard you said I'm eating 2 cans of mixed vegetables.
I can see it, man. I can see it. Let me tell you something. BDA, they should call me NSA because I see it all, man. Yeah, so shout out to Low Place for joining us. Shout out to Cameron for joining us early on. Ray was also here earlier. Everybody else in the chat room, Precise Puncher, shout out to him. Shout out to Funi, yeah, Funi1, don't know. Tony G, Luis Catorce was here from the beginning as well. Tony G, White Tony, Akuma's Deception, Condoleezza Rice. Is that Condoleezza or Condoleezza Rice? I think he misspelled it. Nicola Ferrari, Sanctus Deus Cruor. Who else? Gangster003. Adults Dating wasn't here this time. I'm very disappointed. I was expecting Adults Dating to show up. I don't know what happened there. Stood me up. It's not the first time that a fictional woman has stood me up. I also want to thank Gaia 500 for keeping her mouth shut. She didn't give us any shit today. I think it was on one of its malfunction modes again. We're gonna get it fixed for 2018, people. Don't worry about it. Shout out to Cover Operative as well. You guys know who you are, the usual suspects. So don't forget, you can join us next time. There's I'm gonna be putting the tutorial under the description every time we do this, so you guys know how to join us. It's not that complicated, man. If I can do it and everybody else can do it, you can do it as well, alright? So on behalf of everybody here at BDA, King Bucho, or panelists, and everybody in the chat room, thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the next one, folks. Take care.